Great. Lord God, you have promised where two or three are gathered together in thy name, you will be in the midst of them and bless them. God, we ask you to give us the vision by which we can see your love in this world in spite of our human failures. Enable us to draw upon the wisdom and experience of yesterday as we respond to the questions and concerns of tomorrow. And guide our hearts and minds that we may do your will and work together for the betterment of this county. Father God, we ask you for your blessings on the citizens of this county, this state, and our great nation. And God, we ask for you to keep your hand of protection upon our first responders and our military. We humbly ask you to forgive us of our sins and bless us in all that we do. In this prayer we ask in your holy name. Amen.
Amen. Amen. At this time, we'll call this meeting to order. Please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
I'll entertain a motion to approve the agenda as we have it.
So moved.
Motion been made. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? The motion carries. Hope everyone has looked at the minutes from our January meeting. Entertain a motion to approve the minutes for January.
So moved.
Motion been made. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? And the motion carries. Lucky, I believe you're up next. Planning.
Good morning.
Good morning.
We received an application request from Olivia Fector for a special exception permit for a recreational campground with 25 RV sites. The property, the parcel record number is 39853. It's zoned agricultural. It's located on the south side of Route 707, Phyllis Road. And this is in Election District 7. The Planning Commission recommended that you deny this application.
Okay. Anyone wishing to speak on behalf of the application, please come forward.
Good morning.
Good morning.
My name is Gerald Hooten, and I'm with B&B Consultants. I'm the design engineer. I'm actually here with the owners of the property, Olivia Fechner and attorney Tessie Bacon, and Joel Fechner as well. The Eastland Creek Recreational Campground, the proposed RV campground, it's allowed by right with the approval of the special exception permit. It's located at 5400 Phyllis Road near the intersection of Eastland Creek Road, and they're pulling up a PowerPoint that I have.
No, this is the for about. It's the right one, I think.
Technical difficulties.
Well, I'll continue on then.
Take your time.
Okay. It's okay. The site itself is 5.5 miles south of the town of Boyden. The primary use for the RV campground is to provide an environmentally friendly family campground that's adjacent to the Eastland Creek boat ramp and actually access area, which is actually seeing the Kerr Reservoir. So that's very close to it. It's very local to it. Eastland Creek Campground is going to serve as an RV overflow campground area for the adjacent campgrounds. It's also going to serve as short-term RV campground areas for local area workers. That's some part of the intent, and families who come visit the campground itself. I passed out a sheet in front of you. It actually has a color rendition of the campground. It's slated for 25 RV sites. It has a commercial entrance, a quarter-acre mile road from the RV park is actually a quarter-acre mile south of Phyllis Road. It'll have, like I said, 25 RV spots. Each of the spots are 25 feet by 80 feet. That's a 2,000 square foot minimum square footage. Some of them are slightly larger. There'll be some overflow parking for secondary truck parking for if anybody comes visits. And there's to be a boat, small boat storage area as well. Next to the boat storage area, there's going to be an on-site refuse container or actual dumpster area. So this campground will not use the local area campground or local dumpster containers. It'll have its own in-site that's maintained by the owner. The site's going to be serviced by a private well and private system, so it's not connected to the county systems itself. And there'll be an on-site stormwater management area. As with these parks, if you go through the regulations, they're required to have rules. And as part of those rules that are posted on site, the owners voluntarily offered up 2 conditions itself. We're going to reduce the quiet hours from 9 p.m. to 7 a.m. That's to ensure that we don't disturb anybody that's any local, but it's, everybody's kind of pretty distant from this property. And then the second condition, they're going to put up no trespassing signs along the Dominion Power easement. The Dominion Power easement at the very south of the property, right on where it becomes the government property, Kerr Dam. But we're putting those signs there basically just to deter campers from trespassing on the Dominion easement. This project goes through the county site plan approval process, and as part of that process, the owner is going to voluntarily coordinate with VDOT, the Virginia Department of Transportation, on a couple areas. First, the site's going to, the commercial entrance or the entrance onto Phyllis Road is going to be a commercial entrance. Whether or not VDOT requires it or not, whether or not it trips any actual conditions requiring VDOT to pull a permit on it. And that is basically just to ensure that we have ingress and egress safe traffic movement from the entrance itself. Second condition that the owners voluntarily had taken on was no through traffic signs are going to be posted at the intersection of Phyllis Road and Martins Lane, and then Cuscawilla Lane and Mays Chapel Road. This condition is being voluntarily offered up due to some of the concerns that the owner has heard through cut through conditions for this area. Basically cutting from Cuscawilla Lane up to Martins Lane to Phyllis Road. So we were going to help try and deter that. Although we have kind of driven that, and the time it takes from going from the intersection of Mays Chapel Road, Cuscawilla Lane, all the way to Phyllis Road, that cut-through route is actually 15 minutes. If you just go the normal route, taking Mays Chapel Road up to Phyllis Road, it's only 7 minutes. So technically, it doesn't save on time, but it's not a time saver, but we're still going to pursue those signs, adding the no-through signs, so no-through traffic signs on those areas. In addition, I'd like to note that like all county commercial requirements for this site plan, to include site plan requirements and the Virginia Department of Environmental Quality, are going to be addressed through the site plan process. That includes, again, all environmental items. We can just,
if you just want me to.
just keep going. I would like to show you where the cut-through signs are going to be. Just keep hitting. These are all in the very beginning. Keep going. Keep going. So right here, this is the site itself. You can see Phyllis Road at the top right of the image, and then at the very bottom is the intended RV park. The nearest resident is right there at the intersection of Phyllis Road, and it's a 1/4 acre mile down to, it's a little bit more than, to the RV park. So there's a decent amount of wooded area that's separating. Keep going. Keep going. One more. You can go through all these. These are the all right. So right here, this first, one more hit. This right here is the intersection of Phyllis Road and Martins Lane, where the red arrow points to where a no-through sign will be put. And hit it 2 more times. And then at the intersection of Cuscawilla Lane and Mays Chapel Road, the actual no-through sign would be posted underneath the existing 45-mile-an-hour sign. One more time? One more time? So don't hit yet. This next portion is going to video, and it's an aerial footage of the site. The camera right now is looking into the site from Phyllis Road, and it's going to fly in and fly back. So we wanted to kind of provide a good aerial view of how far back the site is from Phyllis Road and how far back it is from the residence, and that there are no adjacent residents at the rear of the facility at all. If you could hit that, that'd be great. That last image is just the entrance coming in. It's at the bottom. So the owner's intent on this RV campground is a family-friendly RV campground for local residents and to help some of the community and some of the short-term RV rentals that are a necessity at this point. Thank you for your time. I'm going to turn it over to Attorney Ms. Bacon.
Thank you. Good morning, everybody, and thank you all so much for having us here today. We appreciate it. My name is Tessie Bacon. I'm an attorney at Harris, Matthews & Crowder, which is a local law firm in the area. We have an office in South Hill, and then I actually work at the office in Cambridge. And I have been retained in this matter to represent Ms. Fetcher, who is the owner of the property. As you all know, she has applied for a special exception permit for the property that has previously been discussed. A lot of my arguments today are contained in my letter to the Board of Supervisors that was included in all of your packets. So I'm going to save a lot of your time, and I'm not going to belabor those arguments for you today. But I did want to just highlight a few things that were in the packet, and then also a few things that you just saw in the presentation too. I wanted to point out, as Mr. Hooten has already indicated, this is a very well put together, comprehensive plan that does address all of the issues, environmental rules issues, and otherwise that would make it a very lucrative and good project for the Board of Supervisors to consider. In addition to that, it is very comprehensive, and that the owner and Mr. Hooten took a lot of time to address any potential concerns that any of the not adjoining property members necessarily would have, but some of the criticisms that they heard in the Planning Commission. I would also note, and I think that you all could certainly tell from the video that you just saw, that this is a fairly secluded area, and it's at the end of a very long private driveway that comes from the public road as well. Additionally, and as Mr. Hooten's already covered, certainly the owner would be willing to adhere to any conditions with her special exception permit that the board would deem to be necessary. And certainly that's a part of this, is that it is a permitted use but it does have a special exception permit, and so the Board of Supervisors does have some leeway there to try to address any concerns that the public would have. Additionally, I'd like to point out that this is a permitted use and it requires a special exception permit, and the proposed use does fit one of the zoning criteria, which is in that area where it is located. Additionally, we would certainly argue in this case that there's been no rational reason that's been proposed as to why this project should be denied. And this is a well thought out plan. There's no reasonable basis that's been presented that would lead to the denial of this permit. And so we would respectfully request from the board that the board approve this proposal and that it set the special exception permits as discussed before, and certainly to address any of the board's concerns with this as well. And then we would also note here, and this is something that Mr. Hooten had indicated as well, is that there's really been no evidence that there would be any sort of increased traffic. And this is a very secluded area, and we don't believe, to our knowledge, that there's any neighbors from a directly adjacent or adjoining property with the undeveloped land that has expressed any direct criticism of this. So thank you all so much for your time. We really appreciate it.
All right, thank you. At this time, I will open up the public hearing. Anyone wishing to speak can come forward and state your name. Let me remind everyone that you've got 3 minutes. We'll stop you at that time if it's necessary. And I would like to remind everybody that it's the board's practice not to engage in any dialogue during public comment.
Good morning, Board of Supervisors. My name is Crystal Nemi. I'm a local business owner, a lifelong resident of Mecklenburg County, and the president of the Cuskawilla Land Association. I was born and raised in Skipworth, Virginia, on my father, Paul Plasky's farm. I currently live in Cuskawilla, where I resided for the past 25 years on 5 acres of land that my husband and I actively use to operate our businesses. My husband, Chad, has lived in Cuskawilla for nearly 51 years and is the longest living permanent resident in the community. I've submitted to you all a petition with 338 signatures from the local residents opposed to the proposed Eastland Creek RV campground. The concerns raised by our community include overcrowding and inadequate waste management, including dumpsters that are already risks related to water, sewage, and storm runoff, lack of oversight and enforcement, including quiet hours and maintenance, especially since those owners do not live locally or even reside in the state of Virginia. Increased traffic on an already narrow and unsafe road, and the importance of preserving agricultural zoning to protect the character and intent of our community, consistent with the Mecklenburg 2044 Comprehensive Plan. While Mrs. Fetchner stated that she has planned to address these concerns, approving this campground would set a precedent that allows this type of development to spread throughout. We are already seeing this happening in surrounding counties, Halifax, Lunenburg, Charlotte, and even Buckingham County, where I witnessed firsthand while visiting Buckingham for a job site to build a high tunnel. It is deeply disturbing to see our beautiful farmland being lost to large-scale developments, whether it's Microsoft solar farms, subdivisions, or now potentially RV campgrounds. I would also like to address the comparison Mrs. Fetchner made between her existing trailer park and the proposed RV campground. These are very different uses. Most residents in her trailer park live there permanently year-round. An RV campground is described as a temporary recreational use, yet this proposed campground does not even provide recreational access to the lake. So I ask, where will these campers dock their boats? Where will they swim or participate in recreational activities people associate with lake life? Would they be they would be required to drive to the day use at North Bend Park, which is already a campground itself, adding further strain to existing public facilities. For all of these reasons, I respectfully ask the board to consider the long-term impact of this decision and to protect our agricultural land, our infrastructure, and our rural character of Mecklenburg County. Thank you for your time and your consideration.
Thank you.
Sterling Jones.
Good morning. My name is Sterling Jones, and I live on 707. In fact, I actually live directly in front of this land that is purposed for a proposal of an RV park. And me and my family are very concerned about what's going on. In the beginning, we thought that they were just moving the pulpwood off of the wood off of the land. But it turned out to be now an RV park, in which myself and my neighbors, I'm not the only one that lives in that area. I live to the right of that area and directly in front of it. There's some more neighbors that live on the opposite side of me. To the left of that area, I have more neighbors that live in that area. In the front of it is more neighbors that live in front of the driveway. Now, I realized, and the neighbors realized, if Mr. Fletcher was going to put her a home there, I wouldn't be standing here this morning. I wouldn't have any problem with it. But to put an RV park in there, I do have a problem with it. And not only me, my family and my neighbors. And as I spoke before at the planning committee, I truly, truly disapprove of this park. I also disapprove of the traffic that it's going to bring in. Living on 707 is almost like a one-lane highway. We got, at this time of the year, we begin to start having fishermen coming in with big boats and big RVs. Just imagine the turmoil that's going to be on 707 with this RV park. Also, I worked part-time for 20 years at Solid White Point in Henderson campground. We had some good campers that came in at times, and at times, plenty of times, we had some bad campers that came in with a lot of trouble. My next question to you is, while Miss Fletcher is in Maryland living comfortable, who's going to deal with these unruly campers in this park? Who's going to deal with the trouble that's going to bring in this park? And believe me, there will be some trouble at certain times. Thank you for your time.
Thank you.
Bill Bryson.
Before Bill starts, I want to say I'm going to speak later. I'm just here as his eyes because he's visually impaired.
And the attorney said there was no adjourning landowners to the posted. That is right there.
Come on.
Okay. Yeah, that's all right. You want to start? Oh, this is me. Okay. Some of my questions are: how many people gonna stay in these things? I mean, you gonna allow 2 people to stay in one, 4 one, or how many are you gonna put in there? That was one of my questions. Has the Corps of Engineers been notified of this? You can't just ride ATVs and all that stuff down on Corps land. All these people in here pay taxes, and they keep people off of their land, so it keeps it off the Corps land. And you won't be able to monitor that. The dumpsters, y'all are trying to get rid of dumpsters in the county. You can imagine what that's going to look like. And I wasn't notified about this, about this thing right here. The lady told me about it. And What else have I got on? Yeah. Yeah. And how many vehicles are going to be able to go down in there per RV? I mean, going to be 4, 6, 2? How many people going to stay in them? How long they going to stay in them? Can they just, you know, and all of them going to be, most of them will probably be from out of state. The county's not going to get 10 cents of money from them because they just going to sit right in there and do that. The people aren't even from Mecklenburg County. I've lived here all my life. So they're my questions, and I want the Corps notified, and they can't be riding ATVs and walking through there. You can't have a path through there. You can't be cutting trees through there from this land to the lake, and you know that's what's going to happen. They'll never keep them off of it. Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Oh, if they want.
John Turner.
Good morning, Board of Supervisors. My name is John Turner. I'm at 737 Martin Lane, which is in Coscowilla. The PRN number for my lot is 39654. I bought 5 acres 8 years ago, and I've been developing this property all along, spending money in Mecklenburg here. On the property, I've put a 30 by 30 garage, 16 by 24 lofted barn, 108 tons of number 57 stone, and I built my retirement sanctuary. It's a 1,400 square foot home, 1,478 square foot wraparound covered deck. I love the peacefulness of the area. I go to work now with no one in front of me, no traffic. I've got 2 stop signs I got to get through. That's it. My question, I guess, to the board comes down to what's in it for Mecklenburg County? This is your county, my county. What do you get out of this? It all comes down to taxes. Real estate tax is a huge part of your county's revenue, I'm sure. Studies show that an RV park of this nature in a residential neighborhood has the potential to see the home values decrease up to 20% due to noise, traffic, stigma. You know, it's an RV park. Come on, it's the stigma of it. It's just there. I don't care how you polish it. It's still going to be what it is. The impact on overall the strain on the county's infrastructure. It's all going to be a part of this. How much will the county lose in revenue if home values start to decrease over the next 5 years or so? I mean, taxes are taxes. If the value goes down, so does your revenue. As elected officials, I really do truly hope your concerns of your constituents that are behind me weigh heavy on your decision today, because they are here talking and discussing this. You know, they're not sitting at home waiting on somebody else to take the helm. When it comes time for election, and you are all elected officials, it will weigh heavy in their mind at that time. You know, I didn't come here to have an RV park in my backyard. I didn't. There's 600 yards from my back door. I've marked it off. They're on the backside of it. And the power lines where Dominion has it, they're going to be up and down there with 4-wheelers coming through my property, which crosses the power lines. It's just a lot of not needed. Build your park somewhere else. Don't build it in my backyard. Thank you for your time.
Thank you.
Yes, sir.
Karen Coon.
Good morning.
I'm Karen Kuhn. I've been a realtor in this county for over 36 years. When I looked at that picture they showed of the aerial, what I thought is that's my Mecklenburg County. Peace, quiet, and enjoyment. Not what they want to bring here. That is not in, I think, compliance with what we're talking about preserving for this county, the rural nature of our county. I don't think that this aligns with our objective. You're looking at 25 RV sites. I don't think 16 acres is large enough for this type of facility. You're talking minimum, so you're coming camping. There's at least 2 people to a campsite, probably 4 to 6. So you're probably looking at 100+ people in this quiet rural area. I'm concerned about the noise. I have a farm. I have 75 acres. When I sit on my deck, I can hear my neighbor's dogs barking that are 1,300 feet as the crow flies. How many dogs and pets are going to be there? One dog starts barking, you're going to have 50 dogs barking. That's going to bother everybody's noise and enjoyment of their property. Campsites, campfires, I understand a ring so it protects it. That still, people will have radios out, they'll be singing. If you had 50 people singing around a campfire, that noise at night is going to travel more than a mile. Again, disrupting the nature of peace and quiet that everybody else bought property. That's why they bought their property. You just heard the gentleman say that. This is going to cause extra demand on our fire and rescue people. This is going to cause, in my opinion, an impact on the property values of the real estate in this area. I feel like I can say I'm an expert on that since I've been doing it here for over 36 years. The very nature of an RV park is that it's transient in nature. That means a lot of unknown people in the area. I think that leads to more potential for crime in the area. You don't know who's in the neighborhood, who belongs, who doesn't belong. That stigma will affect your real estate values. And if it increases the crime, that's going to affect your real estate values as well. We have state parks in our area. We have U.S. Corps parks in our area. All of those have some kind of staff or supervision. So if there is an issue or a problem, there's somebody to address it. Having a ring camera or something, security like that, while you sit in Maryland and then have to call our police further taxes our tax base resources, our police, our fire, our EMTs. I would suggest that maybe there's a need for this because of the transient nature of all the people here with the Microsoft construction, but this is not the location or the place, and I think that more consideration needs to be done to determining how large of a parcel we truly need if we're going to have RV parks. I don't think 16 acres is enough. I thank you for your time.
Thank you.
Jamie Fox.
Good morning.
Good morning, sir.
Ms. Coons covered pretty much everything that I was going to say about the property real estate values, the crime, the unknown people who will be coming through, the transient nature of the people who will be coming there, which I'm sure most of them will be somebody who's subcontracted through Microsoft, either here, Clarksville, or South Hill. I'm concerned about the noise as well, and as they said, she's not going to be here, and nobody's going to look after their property unless they've got a vested interest in it. She has a vested interest in it, but she's not going to be here in Mecklenburg County right there living it like the rest of us will have to. I appreciate your time, appreciate your consideration. Have a good day.
Peggy Lee.
Good morning.
Come on.
My name is Peggy Lee, and I live in Cuskawilla, as many of us do, on Martin Lane. And I've been coming to this lake for over 60 years as a child, as an adult, and now 12 years ago, my husband and I bought property, and we built a new home, and we moved here permanently. There are many great reasons to live in Mecklenburg County. We lived on the coast, but we love the country. We love the rural feel of Mecklenburg County. I'm here today to share some concerns in opposition to the proposed campground. I did an extensive reading of the Mecklenburg 2024 plan, And that was approved in February of 2025. And there were 5 areas of focus, as you all well know, but some of the people may not know about that. A rural place, modern infrastructure and amenities, a place for all generations and backgrounds, thriving business environment, and vibrant small towns. When reading the county's plan, new housing and businesses will be strategically placed to help preserve our rural resources by locating them within already developed areas or adjacent to those areas. Per the plan, rural conservation is defined as focusing on protection for the waterways and natural resources. The proposed campground does not meet either of these criteria. The location of the campground lies within the rural conservation area per the county's future land use map. The area backs up to the lake and hosts an abundance of trees and wildlife. This campground not only presents concerns about preserving the area as a rural place, but also exposes serious environmental and ecosystem red flags, all of which are contrary to the goals of our county's plan. And the risks are real to the residents of the area. We welcome visitors, and the county hosts several campgrounds, hotels, Airbnbs, and bed and breakfast to accommodate our guests visiting the area. We love our community, and we want to share its beauty with others. However, we want to preserve the integrity of the past and save our beautiful resources for future generations. Ms. Fetcher's lawyer, Ms. Bacon, has provided you with some reasons that you should approve her special exemption. She stated that Ms. Fetcher has had great success with Tanner Trailer Park and supporting letters from her tenants, which you've all have been given to you. And she is a reputable landlord, according to her tenants. However, the Eastland Creek RV Park is in no way close to the same type of development as Tanner Trailer Park, which is designed for families and long-term tenants. This is like comparing apples and oranges. Yes, she hired a civil engineer, Mr. Hooten, over a year ago to plan the RV park. But we as residents were not contacted at all prior to all the work and expense that went into the planning. It only came to our attention when advertised in the local newspaper as part of the Planning Commission's agenda in late 2025. We can agree that Mr. Hooten did a great job, but just the wrong location. Ms. Fetcher owns many other parcels of land in Mecklenburg County. In fact, she owns 80-some acres off of Route 58, very close to the new high school and middle school.
Ma'am, I'm going to have to stop you now at 3 minutes.
Okay, thank you so much.
Sorry, thank you.
Good morning. I'm Wanda Gunn. My husband and I bought property down here 18 years ago as a weekend spot, and we grew to love it and have sold our house in Richmond and moved to the lake because we bought our piece of paradise, and we were excited about that until we found out that there's going to be a trailer park less than a mile away from us. All of my topics that I had have already been talked about, but please deny this because I don't want my piece of paradise to go away. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Amy Neely.
Morning. Thank you all for your time. My name is Amy Nemi, and my husband and I own property only one parcel over from where this proposed campground is going. If approved, I want to speak to you this morning, not just as a landowner, but someone who has loved this place for all of my life. I've been coming here for nearly 35 years. Long before I moved here permanently, this land, the quiet roads, the open skies, the wildlife moving through the trees was a refuge for me. It was the one place where I felt like I could breathe deeply, slow down, and reconnect with what truly matters. I shared this place with my husband when we were dating, and we chose to make this place our home because of that peace, the stillness, and the beauty of the natural world that surrounds us. To be able to start a family and to share it with them. That's why this proposed campground feels so devastating. It threatens the very things that brought us and so many others to this community. The thought of constant traffic, noise, strangers coming and going of all hours, campfires, and crowds only feet from our property line breaks my heart. It's just not simply an inconvenience. It's a loss of quiet rural life that we have built our future around. To me, this isn't just land. It's where I walk, where I watch wildlife, where I listen to the wind in the trees. It's where I've created memories for decades, and now where I've chosen to plant my roots permanently and begin my family. I didn't move here to be the next be next to a busy, high turnover recreational site. I moved here because it was rural, peaceful, and intimate, not commercialized. A campground in this location would change everything. It brings future potential for more properties surrounding to get the same idea for extra income. It threatens the privacy and serenity that makes this place so special. It risks harming wildlife, disrupting the environment, and degrading the quality of life for those of us who have been here for a long time, before this proposal ever existed. And let's be honest, once this piece is gone, it's gone. You can't rebuild what's been paved over, cut down, and disturbed. I'm not against visitors, I'm not against tourism, but there are places where a campground makes sense, and we already have more than 200 campsites just minutes down the road. At North Bend, not to mention multiple other campgrounds in the area, Rudd's Creek, Occoneechee, Buffalo Park, and Henderson Point, to name a few. We should not have to sacrifice our safety and property values or the precious tranquility of this community for a project that benefits only a few while impacting so many. I'm really, truly asking that you recognize the human cost for this proposal. Please help protect the beauty, the peace, the rural character that brought me here to plant our roots. My closing concern is the danger that the turn the driveway is located at. I invite all of you to visit that location, as it's a danger to our community. A vehicle traveling at the speed limit would be at danger of an accident. A stop truck or trailer would need an ample amount of time to pull from that drive and get fully up to speed. This would create a terrible death trap. Please think about our community's safety. And thank you for listening and considering what is at stake, not just for me, but the whole spirit of this place. Thank y'all.
Thank you.
Next speaker, I can't read the writing. The address is 181 Martin Lane.
Before we scribbled out.
Oh, okay.
Okay. Am I the last speaker? No. Okay. Hello. My name is Hope Bryson Woolwine, and I represent the Bryson family. We are 5 generations in Cuskawilla. My grandfather worked for the Corps of Engineers and helped build the dam, and we've been here since day one. We specifically oppose this. There have been many reasons addressed, so I'm not going to go back through those, but what I will say is that the attorney said that there are no landowners of undeveloped property here who oppose this. You've just heard from my uncle, Bill Bryson, who opposes it. He didn't know in the beginning, neither did we, because they weren't notified. So I would love to see a list of all the adjacent undeveloped landowners to show that they were actually notified and approve it. 2, she said that there is no rational reason or reasonable reason for denial. If I'm summarizing what people have said, there will be no supervision and no enforcement. So who's going to enforce the signs? Who's going to be there to make sure the noise ordinances are enforced? There's nobody to go to. So that's the second thing. 3rd, she says that they have taken the time to address the concerns. Those concerns were raised only after we found out. Again, no one was notified. So it kind of came in the back door, thinking that we weren't going to rally, and here we are. The 4th thing is that I have not seen one person here in favor. If they are, that's great. That's why I asked if I was last, because I didn't want to say something that was incorrect, but I haven't seen anyone. And so, as an elected board, my understanding is that your duty is to represent the desires of the citizens. And as you have heard, there are many compelling reasons to vote against this. We ask that you act in the best interest of the citizens. And if you are related in any way, or you have a conflict of interest, we ask that you abstain. Thank you for your time.
Thank you.
Olivia Petcher.
Good morning. My name is Olivia Tanner Fector, and I'm the owner of the property. My family has lived in Mecklenburg County for over 5 generations, and this land was passed down to me by my parents. I take that responsibility seriously, and I care deeply about doing what's right for the community. My family has a long and successful history of operating an RV park in the county. Over 60 years ago, my grandfather founded Tanner Farm Park near Palmer Point Road with 26 campers and trailers. That park has always followed the rules, regulations, and laws of Mecklenburg County. In all those decades, there have been no major issues, no complaints, and no police concerns. In fact, there's been a wait list to get in. You will see 3 testimonials in your packet from some of my current tenants, and their words speak for themselves. Tanner Farm is stable, respectful, family-like community, and that is exactly the model I intend to replicate. This property is uniquely suited for this project. As you saw in the video, it has a half-mile, quarter-mile private entry road completely surrounded by woods. It is isolated, quiet, and self-contained. None of my direct adjoining neighbors have filed complaints about this proposal. This development will not be an Airbnb-style a daily or weekly short-term rental operation. It is designed for seasonal renters who will leave their RVs on site, just like the Tanner Farm Park, which, by the way, those residents don't live there full-time. There may be a few, but it's not full-time all year long. This will dramatically reduce traffic by letting the people leave their RVs on site. Some of my current tenants have been with us nearly 40 years, and they have contributed positively to the local community in many ways. The Planning and Zoning staff report listed 40 reasons recommending approval, including that there would be no anticipated negative impact on the health, safety, or welfare of county residents. This project will have posted rules, an on-site manager once it gets up and going, if you approve that, background checks and references for all tenants. A large dumpster will be provided so there's no strain on local trash services, and we will also post no trespassing signs along the power lines and government land, and the no through traffic signs at both entrances of the Cuskawilla neighborhood. As you know, we hired a professional engineering firm to design this project in full compliance with all county regulations. Environmental and soil studies have been completed and incorporated into the plan. And while Mecklenburg County allows 25 RVs per 1 acre, we are proposing 25 RVs on more than 11 acres. Finally, this project will expand the county's tax base, support local businesses, and allow other families to enjoy the lake the same way my family has for generations. I respectfully ask for your approval so that we continue my family's tradition of providing safe, well-managed, community-oriented RV spaces in Mecklenburg County. Thank you.
Thank you.
Robert Lee.
Morning. Thanks for having me. Robert Lee. Blessed to live here in Mecklenburg. A couple quick issues. You should see in your packet there were at least 3 adjacent landowners that provided letters saying they were very concerned about how this would affect their property values. So as far as opposition, there's definitely that. Regarding that petition, I personally knocked on every door that I could get to on Phyllis Road, and virtually everyone I spoke to was opposed to this. Only 6 people out of the hundreds I talked to declined to sign the petition, and that was mostly because they didn't want to get involved. Regarding traffic, that's been brought up a number of times. I want to quantify that. DOT recommends for RVs passing each other a minimum of 22-foot roadway. For low-volume rural areas, that's us, 20 feet is acceptable. We've gone out and measured. Phyllis Road is 18 feet 4 inches. It's over 1.5 feet less than what is minimum recommended. So as far as you've got an 8.5 foot wide truck and RV trying to pass each other, it's tight, very tight. Last item, let's talk about the Bald Eagle Protection Act. Bald Eagle Protection Act recommends a buffer of 660 feet from activity from a nest. There's a documented nest, number ME1201, that is less than 300 feet from the property line of this proposed park. In fact, I dare to say they probably shouldn't have even cleared the land considering how close it is to where this nest is. And I appreciate your time. Thank you so much.
Thank you. That's all you have? Anyone else wishing to speak before I close the public hearing? Hearing no one, I will close the public hearing now. That is my district, District 7. I'd like to make a motion to deny this application based on the recommendation of the Planning Commission. All in favor of the motion, say aye. Aye. Opposed? And the motion carries. Thank you. Lucky?
Okay, next up, we have another special exception application from Rock Spring Baptist Church. It's for a proposed 197-foot tall communications tower. It's located at parcel record number 18014. This property is located on the west side of Route 825 Ivy Hill Road. It's in Election District 1. The Planning Commission recommended approval of this cell phone tower.
Okay. Anyone wishing to speak on behalf of this application, please come forward.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman. Jonathan Yates of Arcola Towers. Glad to be before you again. Also with me today, I have Mr. Ryan Foltz of Arcola Towers, my friend Mr. Werner, our consultant, and from the church, Mr. and Mrs. Gary Wade. Please be before you. This is another wireless facility for Verizon Wireless, designed for Verizon and 3 additional broadband carriers. We want to thank, first and foremost, Lucky, Josh, Chariot for getting us through the process yet again. You would think as many times I'd done it, I could have figured it out, but they always have to help me, and I thank you. You have a great team here, very professional and very courteous to a poor man like me. The facility in question, it's on Rock Spring Baptist Church. This property is on Ivy Hill Road. A piece of property was given to the church in 1963 by the T.G. Richardson estate. In 1989, they conveyed about an acre and a quarter to acre and a half to Mecklenburg Electric for a substation. So our goal here, this was really worked very well with Verizon's network, but we were able to place it to line it up with the substation and what we call putting utility with utility. You have the utility of the power, we're bringing the utility of the wireless to the same property. The facility was reviewed and approved by the FAA. They made 2 important findings. They determined no hazard air navigation, and also due to its de minimis height, it would not have to require any air nav lighting on it. The facility is about 3.1 miles away from the Merrifield Airport in Clarksville, so that's why we had those very positive findings from the FAA. We were able to meet all setbacks around the facility. The facility requires that, your ordinance requires, that you have at least a 400-foot setback from any off-site residential structure. We were able to more than double that. The closest off-site residential structure is actually 829 feet away. So in every case, we take your ordinance and try to do better. What will the facility will not produce any noise, odor, lights, vibration, dust, fumes, or glare. On average, Verizon, because these things are operated remotely, it takes about, Ryan is in charge of our construction also, it takes Ryan anywhere from 45 to 60 days to get this thing up. A lot of that time is in the foundation setting. The tower itself is stacked in 1 day. After that, it's an unmanned facility. Verizon monitors it and works it remotely. So probably in the average year, 8 to 10 visits by a technician. So we're not creating additional traffic on Ivy Hill Road. I told you all it doesn't do. Let me tell you what it does do. And this is very important for the county. It brings wireless voice and broadband to an area that sorely, absolutely needs it. You know, when you go around Virginia, you're in Henrico County, Loudoun County, your phone works everywhere. A lot of work to be done in Mecklenburg, and this is part of the solution. You have a code red system. Code red's great if the phone works, and that's what we're trying to do, get the facilities there where the people can use them. I'm here to answer any and all questions. Mr. Wade is here to answer any questions about the church property, and Mr. Foltz is here to talk for both Arcola and Verizon's plans. Thank you all.
All right. Thank you. Anyone of us have any questions before I open the public hearing? Alec?
If you could you weigh in on the radius of service coverage that this tower would provide?
Board of Supervisors, my name is Ryan. Excuse me. My name is Ryan Foltz with Arcola Towers.
So service is very dependent on a bunch of different things. So where Verizon's going to sit their center line of antennas is 192. So sometimes, like for example, in DC, you have a cell site on every single block just because there's so many people. In this cell site, you're probably looking for a 1 to 3 mile radius. 2 miles in, you're looking at really good service depending on topography. Because out there with the reservoir and trees. In the wintertime, it's actually better with no trees, with no leaves on the trees. So you're looking around 2 to 3 miles. You get out that 3 mile range, it's starting to tamper off. You might be getting a couple bars, but within 2 miles, you should be really good with Verizon out here once they're up.
And how does the lake impact service coverage? Can it penetrate across the lake, or is it just because of the great distance that is an inhibitor?
Like penetrate in the water? Sorry.
Like if you're on a boat on the lake, can you pick up the coverage?
Radius, yeah, you're fine. You'll get the service.
So how would it affect us another little area from Ira Hill on the net to the place called Epps-Fork, Virginia? Would it cover that area? I think it's if we go by water, probably less than a mile.
If it's less than a mile by the water, and depending on the topography, I would expect it to hit it, yes. And there's a tower on the other side of the water, about I think it's 3.5, 4 miles away, Yates, on the other side of there too. So that's going to also be helping the service.
It's actually about 3.87, and the interesting thing, the tower on the other side in Henderson, North Carolina.
Yeah, that's the one.
It's located on a Rock Spring Church Road.
Well, Rock Spring Church Road, where it used to be Highway 39, that's where it comes into where Virginia. But there is a Rock Spring Church.
Yeah,
So,
that is a 250-foot self-support tower, and that would be the closest, about 3.87.
Yeah. So I you know this area better than I do, but I believe it would hit a yes.
Okay. Any more questions?
It'll support CADs and all that stuff too, sure, no problem.
Yep. Yeah, it'll help any service that emergency services and the sheriff's department would have.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you, guys.
We'll now open the public hearing on this application. Anyone wishing to speak, please come forward. Hearing no one, I will close the public hearing. District 1.
Mr. Chairman, that's my district. Upon the recommendation of the Planning Commission, I move that we accept the special exception permit.
All right. Motion's been made. All in favor of the motion say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? The motion carries. Thank you. Once we make them happy, they go. Yeah. You hear me? You're definitely good today. Oh, yeah. Okay, Lucky.
Okay. So the last application, it's from William and Dove Halverson. It's a special exception application for a second home located on their property. The parcel of record number is 11963. This property is on the west side of Route 721, which is Deerwood Trail, and it's in Election District 9. The Planning Commission recommended approval of this application.
Okay. Anyone wishing to speak on behalf of this application?
So my name is William Halverson, owner of the property, and I submitted this request. We have a home on the property, 750 square foot. It's a 4-acre piece of property. We have one neighbor. It's very remote. Most of our land adjoins core land, so it's zoned agricultural. The home that we have there now is too small to accommodate my family, really. I have two sons that moved there during COVID. Both of them work locally, one of them at Food Line, one of them at Dollar General warehouse. My wife and I want to use this as a potential retirement home and to be able to have our extended family and friends to be able to stay with us. We're going to have a separate well and a separate septic system from the other house, and the two houses are about 150, 200 feet away from each other. Are there any questions about this?
No questions.
Okay, that's all I have. Thank you very much.
All right. I will now open the public hearing. Anyone wishing to speak on this application, please come forward. Hearing no one, I will close the public hearing. Mr. Gravitt, your district.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'd like to make a motion we accept the application based on the planning commission recommendation.
Okay. Everyone's heard the motion. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? The motion carries. Okay. Lisa, I believe you're up. You want to give us some of that wonderful 2-year information?
Wait, I want you now.
Yeah.
They might not be happy.
Timing on the agenda was good there, Alex.
All right, so I'm just here to give a brief overview once again on the 2-year reassessment cycle. That's it. Oh. So why do we reassess? Well, we're mandated by the Constitution of Virginia and the Code of Virginia, and to assess all property and to assess it all at 100% fair market value. We reassess to ensure equitable tax distribution between all classes, and failure to comply by the laws pertaining to reassessments and 100% fair market value will result in state funds being withheld to Mecklenburg County. How do citizens benefit? Public safety, public education, infrastructure, and economic development. Collecting and maintaining real estate data is a key function of the reassessment process. We use a computer-assisted mass appraisal system that houses all the real estate information here in Mecklenburg County. This information is updated daily by deed transfers, new construction, and field visits to properties. To also aid in the process is the geographical information system. This is updated daily within our office. We maintain all this information. And our CAMA system is integrated with the GIS system, which allows for us to display digital data digitally to give visual effects. So we can see the lay of the land throughout Mecklenburg County, what sales have taken place throughout county. Also, we can integrate any kind of aerial photography, topo maps, wetland maps. So any detriments that are on the property, we can visually see those. If we can't get to it on the field, we can visually see it sitting in the office and discount the properties accordingly for those detriments. How does mass appraisal compare to fee appraisal? They are similar in the sense that they all use qualified sales to reflect value. Fee appraisals limits their analysis in the conclusion to a single property or a property type. When we assess, we develop values estimated for groups of similar properties through classification and stratification. The classification of these real properties are developed by the Department of Taxation, and as you can see on this slide, it just breaks down the different classes of properties throughout the county. Current sales data is used to determine value. This data is broken down into different categories. They're broken down into land. You have your categories, then you have your subcategories. So we take all the land-only sales and we break those out separately from the residential and the commercial properties. Once land values is determined based on the sale, we then determine what the building values will be. The sales data shows cost per acre, lot value, and value for waterfront lots, and they can increase geographically. Any properties that have detriments, they are adjusted accordingly, such as access, wetlands, or topography. Once we you can go ahead. I think I want to hear. Once we determine the land valuation, we then determine building values. We determine the median cost per square foot. This is based on current sales, current building permits, current contractors. We talk to contractors, and we use the authorized appraisal guide, Marshall and Swift. We assess that replacement cost new. We then apply adjustments based on detriments. We determine the conditions of these properties. We then apply depreciation, and depending on location, there could be adjustments made for geographical areas, for neighborhood codes and things like that. In the final phases of the reassessment, we give preliminary numbers to the county administrator to help calculate tax rates to be included in the recommended budget. We conduct ratio studies to determine any inequities if necessary, and we make final adjustments. We create the reassessment book, and we publish it in the clerk's office. We mail reassessment notices to all property owners. We hold informal appeals, and then we send out second notices. After the second notices are mailed, the taxpayer has, the option to appeal to the Board of Equalization. July 1st, 2024, the board, you all created the Permanent Board of Equalization. To qualify as a member of the board, you must be a resident of the county, and 30% of the board members must be commercial or residential appraiser, other real estate professionals, builders, land developers, or legal or financial professionals. The members of the board will receive training from the Department of Taxation as prescribed by law. The term of the board begins the following year the reassessment is conducted, and the term will expire 1 year after it has taken effect. Notices are mailed once again as a result of those appeals from the Board of Equalization. If the property owner is not satisfied with the board's final assessment, they can appeal to the circuit court at that time. And Alex, did you hand out those? We got a sample here of what the reassessment notice will look like. I know in years past there was concerns on the tax rate because it's not set when we send out the notice. So by law, we have to publish the actual current tax rate. So this year we're going to add a couple columns in there for a proposed tax rate and what the percent of change to the 2 previous years will be. So hopefully this will help answer some questions when the notices are sent out. And of course, by law, we have to publish the 2 previous tax assessments and what the percentage of change is based on the current tax assessment and the tax rate.
Okay.
So hopefully that'll help. I know in years past there was concern, or I guess maybe some confusion on the tax rate being published as it is currently proposed to be.
Yeah, that comes down, it's a timing situation. What's happened in the past is the budget hasn't always been done in a time frame that works out well with the reassessment. It's never going to be fully compatible. But in many years ago, when budgets would be adopted in May, that process would be advertised after the notices would go out, and so there would be no information, no rate information at all. So it would default back to the prior one. The budget calendar that we've been using for the past couple of years and we'll be using again this year has a introduction of the budget in advance of the notice so that we're able to have a proposed tax rate that won't only go into our advertisement as part of the budget process, but will be able to be now put onto the reassessment notice. So people won't automatically think, for lack of any other information, that we're trying to use the previous tax rate when we have taken a lot of steps on our end to try to equalize those rates out and have the lower tax rate that's reflective of any of the current market trends.
Okay. When will you have some projection on what the tax rate might be?
It will be at the budget presentation on March 31st.
I won't press you for it then. Sure.
It is.
Sure
So
you
it's,
got it in your head.
well, so how this process kind of works, and Lisa can attest to this more than I can, but it's an ever evolving number. And so as there's different pieces of information as they come in, it changes the overall rate base, which affects the calculation. And so it could be, and at some point you have to cut it off. And when we cut it off, it isn't the final number. So, you know, we don't account for everything, but we account for up to the last possible moment. So the rate calculation that we're going to try to do for the budget on March 31st is going to be able to account for data through mid to late March, which is something we also haven't always been able to do in the past, and we've had numbers fluctuate and everything. So we're going to try our best, but at some point you just have to cut it off. But we've talked about numbers previously, and they can change, and they've changed in the past. In 2 days, all of a sudden it goes up several $100 million in assessment value. So it really can, alter the numbers fairly significantly.
Okay. All right. Well, we'll look forward to it.
One thing I'll ask on this, is there any way we can post this presentation on our website so to educate the public and stuff like that? So
And
if they
us
have
maybe a
questions-
week or two before the meeting.
Yeah.
I mean, we can post the presentation today. I mean, there's no harm in doing that.
I mean, I think that way at least it's out there and people can look at it. Yeah, good idea.
I mean, we can even create a social media post that's based on the posting of this as well.
Upcoming
So.
reassessment, and here's why we do it and how we do it.
Yep.
I think that would be very beneficial.
Oh, I was thinking about the budget itself.
No,
that we
I was
always
thinking
get.
about this presentation.
Not.
More questions for me?
No, that's all I got.
All right now.
More to come.
Okay. Alex, I'm going to let you handle the next one on these utility properties.
Yes, so at the January Property Committee meeting, one aspect that we talked about was the neighborhood utility sites and what path forward the county may take on the ownership of these. The Property Committee at that meeting decided to give the board members an additional month to investigate the sites, contact any local owners of adjacent property or of the prior property before it was deeded to the county to see if anyone was interested in receiving them by gift or if we were going to proceed with a sale by auction of all of these properties. That month has now elapsed, so it is on the agenda for discussion. If anyone has any of these sites that they feel should be conveyed to an alternative property owner. If not, then I suppose the next step would be to determine that we are going to go by auction, and we would have a public hearing to that effect at the March the March board meeting, and then from there we would have an auction sale at some point, probably the month thereafter, I would guess, based on our timelines with some other disposition sales that we've had.
The only one I've got, Mr. Chairman, the one that's in my area that I spoke to them, their board does not meet till tomorrow night. So that's just where the one in my area kind of stands.
So
I think I had seven in my district. I've contacted most of them. The majority of them have a little 1/10 or 2/10, very small tracts right on the corner of their land that they live. And I totally think, you offer that up for auction. But I did have one, and I did send it to Russell, that the person there is still there that gave it, and that's a lot of, like, a little over 8/10 of an acre. And I think it would be unfair to auction that off once he gave it, because that potential lot could be worth $10,000 or $15,000. I would hate to think that he would have to go back and buy it after he gave it. So that's the only one I found in my group. That the rest of them I have no problem being auctioned off.
As far as as I begin to research, a lot of the property that we have obtained was their realtors that had made developments. and they don't live in the area, and it was hard for me to contact them. But I did contact one out in Old Sudan, and the address was completely changed, and the people that originally owned it must have sold it to the developer, but that piece of property also connects to a personal piece of property of somebody else's own, so it joins to it. And I got in contact with them, and they're supposed to have gotten back in contact with me, and they haven't as of yet heard from them.
I too have not had a lot of luck. I've only got two, but I haven't got a hold of them to what I could really make a decision either way. So I don't know if we need another.
Can we
Is it time sensitive, Alex?
No, it could certainly
Let's wait
be
another
told
month.
another month. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, and I tell you what I did. I kind of went on the GSI map and just went to the people that, it's pretty obvious that it's a square tract of land, and right in that corner of that property, they bought the property and all. So I didn't try to go and get in touch with everybody, go back and do back history on it. I just contacted those people and told them, look, it's going to come up for sale, and I will contact you when I find out the sale is, where you can be there and have an opportunity to buy that little 1/10. And I can't believe a lot of people will be coming to an auction to buy 1/10 of land on a piece of property or something, So I think I hope that most of those people get an opportunity to buy it back, and I would think it would probably be at a small price.
And plus the one that I found, it was that adjoined to the property, it was our property. The original owners passed away, and so it was passed down to the children, and they don't have a real good history of what it is or what it was or who owned it prior to that. But it did adjoin to that property, and I told them if they was interested in purchasing it because the realtor owned the property, the bulk of it, I would let them know when it would be up for sale.
Alex, just one question. When that is deeded back, will these people obtain that cost of having the title and all draw back to them, or who absorbs that? Will that be us, or will it be them?
It's really dependent on what you all would like to do. If you want to absorb the costs, then we certainly can absorb the costs. It certainly and Russell would probably know this better than I do, but by default, it would be everybody would be responsible for each of their costs, so they would be responsible for some of the recordation costs of that.
Alex is correct. By custom, there are certain costs paid by sellers and certain by purchasers. We would recommend that custom to you, but as Alex said, if you want to vary from that, you certainly have that right.
Questions. I'm hearing folks say that they're making contact. Does your office and staff, will you guys contact any of these folks as well, or is that a no?
Well, the way it was discussed was that the board members themselves would be deciding which ones we were going to do by gift and which ones we were going to do by auction, and so therefore it was taken upon the board members to make that determination, and that's why the contact was being made. Our default position would have been auction every single one, but we recognize that there were other circumstances involved, so that's where that came from.
Alex, I know I mentioned it before, but
which one? All mine. Go back and look up that number, that 3695. GIS.
Well, I think we're going to auction them all at once and not do it piecemeal. So
right, but I guess verbally, mentally, go ahead and we'll just commit to that one.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, yeah, because I think it looks like it was bought from whoever subdivided and made that subdivision, so it really was bought.
Mm-hmm.
Gotcha.
Okay. We good another month then? What, everybody?
I think so.
Okay. All right. Mr. Hargrove, you up?
Okay, thank you, sir. The Emergency Service Committee met on Monday, February 9, 2025 at 8 a.m. in the Board of Supervisors conference room. Members present, myself, chairperson, Tom Towner, Kirk Gravitt, Brenda Blackwell. Also present, Jim Jennings, David Brinkley, Sterling Wilkerson, Dennis Spence, Claudia Lundy, Russell Slayton, Justin Birch, Alice Gottschalk, Judy Sheffield, and Jenny Whitmore. Chairman Hargrove called the meeting to order. Alice Gottschalk reviewed the revision of Chapter 34 of the County Code of Ordinances. Upon a motion of Mr. Tanner, the committee voted unanimously to recommend approval of the revision to Chapter 34 and authorize staff to advise a public hearing. Justin Burst discussed the expansion of the EMS services. Let me stop. I went too far. I want to make a motion to the board that we accept and the recommendation of the staff to move forward to hold a public hearing for the approval of this Chapter 34 or ordinances or Chapter 34 by the organized staff.
Okay, everyone's heard the motion. Any more discussion on that? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? And the motion carries.
Amen. For information purposes, Justice Burst discussed the expansion of the EMS services to brace the area in order to strengthen the countywide EMS coverage by adding the capacity and improving balances to areas that determine continues to increase. The demand continues to increase. He advised that a countywide EMS need assessment was performed by evaluating call volume trends, response distances, unit availability, staff, and coverage reliability. In November 2025, the county EMS officials met with Lake Gaston Fire Department about housing and ambulance crew and their department. He stated that this location would be temporary but remain an embrace area and would be permanent. The committee discussed this matter to greater lengths. Justin Burris advised that this department would offer an EMT class this spring at no cost to the citizens. No further business. The meeting was adjourned.
Okay. Anybody have any questions? All right, moving on. We've got an appointment on the Lake Gaston Weed Control. I don't know if anybody has any ideas of.
Yeah, and I reached out because, as Mr. Seiko said, that the gentleman, Mr. Dornack, he was an alternate.
Mm-hmm.
And he hadn't really been to any of the meetings. I reached out to him and haven't heard anything back from him. So I would say we would need to fill a position. I don't have a person now. I don't know if any other member has a person, but if not, if we could
I don't
do that.
I don't have one.
If we can wait until next month on that, I don't think it's a pressing.
Bring it up.
pressing.
Yeah, maybe somebody can contact Glenn Barber.
Yeah, I'll reach out to him and see
Okay,
if he'd be willing to do it.
that'd be good.
Yeah, maybe if not, maybe even Chad or something.
All right,
Yeah.
we'll do that.
All right, you gonna take care of that then?
Yeah,
We'll
I'll
have
reach
that
out
on
to
our
him.
March agenda.
Yeah.
Okay. All right, and we need an appointment to the Southside Virginia Alcohol Safety Program. You want to enlighten us on that a little bit? Because
The Southside Virginia Alcohol Safety Program is one of several what's called VASAPs across the Commonwealth of Virginia. There's a declining number of them, in fact, as a lot of them have been struggling. Our neighboring one, in fact, has folded and is now part of ours. But we appoint several members to the board. You know, usually this is in the area. The Commonwealth's attorney has representation on here. Usually law enforcement has representation. Jenny, are you familiar with any stipulations on which appointment this is?
For as long as I can remember, it's always been the Commonwealth attorney.
so, do we need to appoint the Commonwealth Attorney?
Well, he's already a member. Is his term up? Okay. So then it's a reappointment.
I make
Yeah.
a motion, we reappoint him.
Okay. Well, let's,
I make a motion, we reappoint him.
everyone's heard the motion.
He's not
All in
here to
favor, say aye.
defend himself.
Didn't sound like a lot of choice, did it?
Opposed? And the motion carries. All right, Mr. Rogers, Brad?
Good morning, Mr. Chair, members of the board.
Morning.
A few updates on the report that I gave you all in your packet. For the month of January, our crews received 25 concerns from the citizens, and we closed 19 of those out. During the little bit of time we had prior to the storm, they did perform some maintenance to surface roads, ditching throughout the county. We have no planned closures as of right now, and we did issue 12 permits. If you notice in the packet that we gave, we have awarded contracts for the surface treatment schedule, latex, and pavement, and it is a privilege to say that Mecklenburg was awarded another contract for pavement, specifically to Mecklenburg County. The I-85 project at the 3-mile marker for the bridge replacement, to my knowledge, is still scheduled for spring of this year. I've reached out for updates, and I have yet to get those. Tree cutting is still ongoing in I-85 through the left lane, And we are actively working on our 6-year plan revisions, and I have a meeting this week, and I welcome any concerns or notes you may have in regard to that. But that is all I have to report, and I welcome any comments or questions you may have.
Appreciate everything y'all do during the storms.
It's been a long one.
Yeah, it's been strange weather systems coming through that create
I would say
create some unusual problems, I would say.
It has.
I know this little storm that came through Friday was kind of strange for some areas to get that much snow just almost out of nowhere.
I think it caught everybody off guard.
Yeah.
Yeah. And with that being said, we will be looking and probably can plan on pavement failures. We have 2 actively right now in residency. So as the temperatures increase, we'll welcome it, but the pavement will suffer.
Yeah.
Yeah, I do want to thank you for coming down my way and scraping my road. It felt so good to have somebody that's buying interest and not be denied all the time, so I do thank you.
We do our best.
We appreciate it. They did a very good job. Please let them know.
I certainly will pass it along.
Mr. Chairman, in the future, I know Brad enjoys spending a lot of time with us. Is it possible we could move his agenda up with, like, switch it with F to G? And that way, it give him more time to go deal with some potholes over at Overlook Road or something like that.
I appreciate that.
I feel absolutely confident that staff would be more than glad to do that. Brad, will that help you out? I know you're busy and you have to sit here during these public hearings and stuff, so
yeah,
that could possibly be a little frustrating for any individual.
I'm not going to complain, I'll tell you that. All right. Anything else? All right. Thank you.
I think we're good. Jenny, we got anybody that needs to talk again?
Yeah, we have one, Justin Birch.
Come on down.
He's pretty good at that.
Yeah.
Come on down.
I mean, it's the very next thing. So as we're getting that plugged up, Mr. Chair, in advance of the first storm that we had of the January sequence, which was Fern, we issued a declaration of local emergency that mirrored the state declaration of emergency issued by Governor Spanberger. And the purpose of doing a local emergency, just so everyone's aware, is it provides us with the ability to access the resources made available by Virginia. So VDEM has a number of items that they put out there, whether it be perishable food, water, or more equipment-based things like generators, and we can only access it if we have our own emergency declaration. So that's why we put that in effect. It was left into effect for the subsequent storms, but also because per the Code of Virginia, a local emergency must be confirmed by the Board of Supervisors at their next regularly scheduled meeting, which is this one. So also in front of you at this time or after this presentation, whichever you prefer, we do need to adopt a resolution to confirm that declaration of local emergency. We're also asking you to essentially dissolve that state of emergency as well at this
We
point.
do that all in one.
It's all in one resolution that's available. Yep. So we can.
My turn?
Yep.
All right. So we wanted to do just a little brief overview of everything that happened over the last 2.5, 3 weeks with the crazy weather we've had. Put something together for you to kind of get a glimpse of what happens behind the scenes. So we all know about the event that came in on 2 weeks ago now. We saw that about 10 days in advance. We started getting notifications from National Weather Service, VDM, and other places that we were looking at a significant snowstorm. And snow slows us down, but ice really puts the brakes on. And as the week progressed, we started getting updated information that we would be seeing possibly a catastrophic ice storm. And it's a screenshot from one of the weather models that was produced on the Friday prior to the storm coming in. We're looking at nearly 1.5 inches of possibility of ice. And if y'all remember the Valentine's weekend storm of 21, We saw the northeastern part of the county saw roughly 3/4 to 1 inch of ice, and it was devastating. There were places out of power for upwards of 3 weeks. So we were looking at this spread across an area encompassing the whole county and all of our surrounding localities, which was going to put a strain on everything. So we started monitoring. We started getting the information coming in from VDM, National Weather Service. We started some cooperation calls. And then on Thursday, the governor issued a state of emergency for the state, for the Commonwealth. I spoke with County Administrator Gushaw, and we decided it was a good idea if we followed suit with the local declaration, kind of put us in line, like he said, to get a hold of those resources we needed to have in place as a contingency we needed. So we did that. We pushed it out. We started getting supplies coming in. We got bottled water, MREs, regular food supplies, sheltering equipment. These things started arriving by tractor trailer. These are all resources that are stored in a cache in the state that they replenish on a regular basis. So they say, what do you need? And we hit the button and got it brought on into us and started putting in. We started coordinating with social services, law enforcement, VDH, others on if we were going to need to open like sheltering sites and also warming centers. And what we did there, you may have seen social media, we had a lot of outcry, hey, are you going to open these things? Are you going to do? We had a plan all along to do. And there was a reason we did not release that information directly to the public as to where they would be at that time. We do not have the staff to run these things 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. We can only staff them in the event of emergency, and we have to open them based on where the need is. So we didn't want people to show up to a shelter site, say, hey, the shelter is going to be here, and then they show up and there's nobody there. So the plan was going forward that Monday morning after the storm, we would open whichever one needed to be opened in that area and then get the people there if there were any long-term power outages. So that's why that was kept away from the public for the moment. So we did daily calls with Weather Service, VDM, and others. As things got closer, we actually started to bring in like a regional or actually a local level weather call virtually where we included we did an email chain to begin with, just sending out everybody. But for the couple of days leading up to the event, we actually did a virtual weather call with our local TAM managers and public works directors. Brad from VDOT was involved. The local utility companies jumped in. And we were able to get a one-on-one account for what's going to happen in Mecklenburg County to see what everybody had in place, to see what their needs were. We identified some needs with the towns that they needed, and I'll get to that in a minute, but we worked on helping them get their needs established. So we got everybody on the same page. The coordination was great. It worked well with everybody involved. Throughout the whole county. Dr. Warner was involved with our weather calls as well, kind of give the school a heads up, hey, here's what's going on, and the resources they had available to assist us throughout this. So the big question was the EOC. So once we declared the state of emergency or the local declaration of emergency, we followed the county's emergency operations plan, which y'all approved a couple months ago. Part of that is a coordinated emergency operations center. And you can click there. So what it does, it gives us this big overview of the whole situation. Each department, each agency still runs their own individual incidents. But we look at it from above as the whole county perspective. What resources do they need? Where are the resources allocated in the county? Do we need to move them from one place to the other to get these people help? We're constantly getting a live stream of data from our state and regional partners. We're able to get that and then pass it down. We get situation reports from the people in the field, see what's actively happening, what are their needs. So that's kind of the purpose of the EOC, is just the general coordination of all the assets together. So why did we do it? I just basically said, we went to the emergency operations plan, and this thing was looking to be massive. And we knew that we were going to need to be able to run this for several days. The plan was to initially open at 7 o'clock on Sunday morning when the storm was supposed to be starting to come in, and we were looking to stay open until at least 7 o'clock on Monday night and evaluate the situation at that point. We were actually able to close a little early thanks to the effects of the storm not being as bad as they were. But it gave us the real-time coordination throughout the whole event. So who staffed it? So we did, of course, the Mecklenburg Emergency Services was the lead role in the Emergency Operations Center. We had representative from communications. We had law enforcement representatives. We even had representatives from the State Fire Marshal's office. That was one of the resources we were able to pull in from Department of Emergency Management. They'll send you staff. Well, we happen to have someone in this county that works for the Fire Marshal's office. And what a great resource he was to have to bring in here. and work with us through the event. So, and then IT, and I want to make a big point about IT. Y'all recently approved additional positions for IT. On Thursday, when we decided to open this EOC, the original place we had to do this was in the conference room downstairs where animal control is moving. Well, due to the construction, everything is not fully set up yet. So we need an EOC and we need to be open in the next 24 hours. I called IT and they hit the ground running. And within 6 hours, they had gotten us outside phone lines, our own extensions, they had gotten computers, they had all the AV equipment set up, and it was ready to function. And having that workforce in place made a huge difference. Just Alex and Richard by themselves would have never been able to, maintain the rest of the county's operation and get us up and going. So that was huge, and I thank y'all for that. That was massive to us. All right, so basically hit on there what we did. That's actually a status screen from the request we put in. So we looked at things we were going to need. The waters they were sent in, the MREs, the food, the sheltering supplies. We looked at getting shower units, to bring in, to have brought in later in the week. If we have these extended power outages, somebody's going to want to take a shower. So we lined up vendors to be able to bring those in if needed, along with generator support for those. The town of South Hill has got 13 sewer lift stations in their area. They have generator backup for 10, and they have a portable generator. But it left 2 sites unprotected. And based on this, they were trying to find generators, and they needed 125 kW 3-phase generators, which is not something you just go pick up at Harbor Freight and get going. So we were able to locate some. I believe they finally come out of Charlotte. VDM gave us a list of resources and put us in contact with vendors. So we got them 2 generators brought in along with the electrician to hook them up. So that's part of the deal with DOC. We were able to coordinate that. They were looking everywhere like, hey, tell us what you need. We can reach out to the centralized resource, find it, and get it sent to you. So we kept monitoring. We had weather calls throughout the day. These were state-level calls. Then they would break them to regional. And then we also had calls with our local utility people as well. So, and then we were able to pass that down directly to our people, what parts were relevant. So, we got less freezing rain than was anticipated. It was wonderful. And I won't bore you with a science lesson, but had that cooling layer at the bottom been about 500 foot shallower, we would have had a lot of freezing rain. Having it able to freeze before it got back to the surface and turn into sleet, while it caused big issues on the road and it caused that dense ice pack, it stayed off of the trees and the power lines. And that really saved us. Throughout this storm, the highest power outage we saw, we monitored all 3 utility companies for the county continuously. The highest outage we saw was 476 people, and that was on Monday morning. There was an outage, looked like it may have been from a switch yard. That was out for no more than 30 minutes. Other than that, there was a 48-person outage, I believe. We saw it one time. The longest outage was 30 minutes through the whole event. So we were great there. It did good. We got to coordination. We determined at lunchtime on Monday, hey, looks like everything is going to be good. Let's knock this back to virtual. If they need something, they can call us on the phone. We still have that coordination in place. So what did it cause afterwards? That dense ice packet slowed us down on the secondary roads. And the 7 or 8 days of that frigid temperature, the ice just wasn't going anywhere once it became packed. And VDOT did a great thing by actually not putting their contractors out until it stopped, so they didn't pack it. That's the only reason they were able to get up what they did in the amount of time. But the freezing temperatures, once it thawed and melted, thaws, freezes back, it became just a mess, as you've seen. There's still roads, some of the gravel roads are still areas that aren't. So it caused us some long-term impacts, difficult access to our patients, and not just from the roads, but getting across their yards, sidewalks, steps. We had numerous injuries to providers over the course of this. They're trying to lift patients, push stretchers, get them out. Fortunately, there have been no injuries to any patients we've tried to pick up, but we have had several of our providers have had to seek medical attention, nothing serious. But because of that, we have still been running an increased staffing. We just started reducing that. We were running almost double staffed to give them the extra hands to get those people in and out of houses to protect the patient. So that's probably our biggest cost throughout this whole event is going to be the overtime that it costs us to operate safely. So that's all of it there. Basically just that, we took the information and decided to go this, we took it seriously because of the information we were given. We were looking at a catastrophic incident, and even as it started to unfold, we watched it come through Mississippi, up through Tennessee, and I don't know if you saw the pictures of Nashville, but there was just skating rinks out there, and they were lining up with all the forecasts that it's coming this way. So, we were very fortunate to end up with the sleet instead. But I do thank you for your support throughout. I know a lot of you called and checked in, and we even had Mr. Tanner there for 24 hours. We kept him occupied.
Did y'all keep him for 24 hours?
We kept him for 24 hours.
It worked me hard. But I will say, with working with Justin and them, you do find out a lot of things that between reading through the emergency operations plan and stuff like that and what he said about his conference calls with towns and stuff like that has also identified other things that we've known about, but I think towns are looking at it a little bit more now to say, hey, we don't have a generator on that. We need to work to get that, and they're working through his office too. We've gotten a lot of grants in the past to get generators for some of these things, so I know that'll be a priority in the future too, but we were very, very lucky.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank y'all.
Just a comment. I was believing that, people were gravitating to volunteer their services to you because you're such a likable guy. to find out that they were required to be there, it's a little bit of a disappointment.
Yeah, it happens.
Well, see what happens.
You can still be,
Thank y'all.
All right, thank you. So we need a motion to adopt this resolution.
That's correct, yes.
To confirm and to rescind the local emergency pursuant to one of the storms.
That's right.
So move, Mr. Chairman.
The motion been made. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? The motion carries.
The next couple items are updates and information regarding grants that we've been able to successfully obtain here in the county in the past 45 days or so, and I'm particularly pleased by all of them, and I wanted to bring these all to your attention. The first one we'll start out with is Parkview High School. As you all know, you approved a development agreement at Parkview High School. This is the old school facility part of it, to bring multifamily housing and continue the useful life of that facility. As part of the development agreement, there was several grants that we agreed to be the applicant of before the property would convey over to the developer. And among those were related to the asbestos and remediation of hazardous materials inside the building. One particular grant program that we applied to was the Virginia Brownfields Fund and VBAF, which we've successfully obtained before for other projects here in the county. VBAF had a very popular year. They had the most applications they ever received in this cycle, and they had requests that were 8 times more than the funds they had available. Fortunately, Mecklenburg County was a successful recipient of VBAF funds, and so we're very proud of that. And in fact, we probably are one of the largest recipients. But due to that overwhelming demand, we did not receive the full grant application that we submitted. And so we got about half of what we asked for. We got $240,450 from this particular application, which is enough to do almost all the work in the main building. At the same time, we applied to Virginia Housing for a stabilization grant related to the roof for the same scope of work, abatement and replacement of the roof at the Tech building, which is the 2-story building behind the main building that was built in the late 1970s. And this grant was for $150,000. So we've got about $400,000 coming to us from the Commonwealth of Virginia to support this work. During the fall, in advance of the VBAF grant application, we did an RFP, or actually I should say it's an invitation to bid, so an ITB for a vendor for this work in order to submit in the grant application. And we had some decent interest. I mean, we had half dozen applicants for that ITB. The ultimate low bidder in that round was a company called EIS. And EIS is a national company, but they have a operation out of Raleigh, which would be the one that would do this work. So Where we're at with this project is thus. We have sufficient funds to do the most of the main building and to do the roof stabilization. It's not the entire amount, and so what we are asking for is the board to grant us the ability to use some funds from our multi-purpose reserve to meet the grant matches to secure these 2 awards. The total amount that we would have to expend on this project, which includes finishing out the extent of the work with EIS, as well as paying the grant application fees for Southside Plan District Commission. Traditionally, the PDC receives its funds from the grant award, but because the grant award couldn't cover the total amount, I felt it's pertinent for us to be able to pay Southside PDC for all of the great support that they've provided us along the way with these 2 particular grants. The total cost to us, in addition to the funds from the Commonwealth, would be in the neighborhood, once you include the Southside PDC, you're looking at somewhere between $50,000 and $60,000. In exchange for that, we have worked out an agreement with the developer, and the developer will take on the total costs of doing the work that was not approved through the grant applications. So the developer will pay for the remediation costs of the tech building itself, as well as the ag building, which is the original 1-story structure behind Parkview High School. So we've both said that should you all approve us using funds for this purpose, we will both incur additional costs that we were not planning on doing in order to continue to expedite the project. The work can be performed fairly quickly. The remediation work, if you all approve this today, I would anticipate a mid-March period of time in which the performance could be done. So you'll see some activity there. The overall redevelopment, just so you're aware, is still contingent and dependent upon the development of the wastewater infrastructure line from the current Town of South Hill line, which is just around the 903 exit off of 58, all the way out to the site. That should be bid, and the town's running the bidding for that one, but it should be bid in the coming months. And so we're hoping that we'll see pipes in the ground fairly soon on that project. But that is the big limitation from us conveying the actual property and for it to be redeveloped as has been presented in the past. So where we're at today is we, as staff, are requesting that you all adopt the resolution language that is in front of you, and that would do the following. That would accept the grants both from VBAF and from Virginia Housing Stabilization, that would award the project to EIS, and that would allow us to redirect funds that are already appropriated, already in our budget, and have not been used to date to make those local matches, and then to allow the county attorney and I to negotiate and execute a contract with EIS for the performance of all of this work.
Okay.
So this means multifunctional reserves.
This would come out of the multipurpose reserve, yes.
And who would like to make that motion?
I probably would, but I just had a question.
Yes, sir.
The developer, how much is he liable for? What's the difference? Between, he's got to make up the difference there.
So the actual work is going to be, I'd have to double check the exact numbers on this, but it's going to be equal or greater than the amount that we're paying for it.
He came into this deal hoping to not have to do any of that.
That's correct.
So he has some skin in the game.
Yes.
But I'd like to make a motion now.
Approve these. Everyone's heard the motion. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? And the motion carries.
Thank you. The next grant that we received is we got notice from the Department of Housing and Community Development that we have been successful in our grant application with respect to a housing rehabilitation project at Oak Road and Surface Road, which is in District 5. Several years ago, the Southside PDC did on our behalf a housing rehabilitation assessment. There were several locations in the county that were identified. This was at the top of the list, and you all previously instructed us to proceed with an application for this project. It's been in the hopper for a long time. We did the planning grant, successfully completed that. We applied for the implementation grant. That was held up for several months due to the shutdown of the federal government late last year and the lapse of appropriations. Now that everything is funded, we were able to receive notice of this award. So this is pretty great news for the people of that community. And so we're going to be getting $1.25 million from the federal government through Virginia in order to do this work. The bulk of this work will be performed. In fact, all of the actual work, there'll be some planning administration items in this fiscal year, but the actual construction work will be in next fiscal year. So we don't need any appropriation action at this time, and the budget, when it is produced for next year, will include the $1.25 million in it. So that's one other thing to note. That will be included in there at that time, but there's no action that is needed today on this particular one. The next grant that we received was the United States Department of Transportation Safe Streets for All, and this is a plan and demonstration grant. This was a program that was created during the Infrastructure Investment and Jobs Act of 2021, and the purpose of the Safe Streets for All is intended to allow localities, states and localities, to help vehicular safety, pedestrian safety, bike safety on roadways all throughout the United States. Our comprehensive plan, when it was adopted, included a recommendation that we pursue this grant. So we went forward and applied for it, and were successful. As I mentioned, this is a plan and demonstration grant, so it is essentially the creation of a study to determine our safety needs. We focused on the secondary road network, so there's a lot of attention that is placed on the primary road network, whether that be the interstate or Route 58 or other substantive roads of that caliber. There's not as much attention that is focused on our major secondary roads. However, we have unfortunately a very high history of collisions, crashes, and some real serious and deadly crashes on those roads. So we feel like it's a very important action to take a look at this and to see, is there anything we can do to better those safety conditions on our secondary road network. This particular grant, as most federal grants are, is an 80-20 grant. The federal government will absorb 80% of the costs. We have to make a 20% match. The cost of this is the total project cost, which will be done through Timmons, is $150,000. So the federal government awarded us $120,000, and we will have the other $30,000 in cost. This is another project that will be done next year. You can't start this project until we actually have a contract in place with USDOT. Those negotiations have not begun, but that contract will be before you at some point in the future, and then the work will be performed next year.
Okay. Very good. Sounds like a really good project.
And then the last grant that we received was from the Virginia Department of Fire Programs. This was a personal protective equipment grant. We were the central applicant on this one, applying on behalf of all the volunteer fire departments in the county. We received $100,000, which was the max that you could get from this program. We will be purchasing the turnout gear and distributing them to all of the fire departments in the county. Each one will receive 3 actual pieces of turnout gear through this particular grant. So this will be done now. And so we do need an action, and it is in front of you to allow us to accept this grant, to appropriate the $100,000, and to give the the Director of Emergency Services with the authority to make the purchases and then give the material over to those fire departments.
Mr. Chairman, I'll make a motion that we accept this grant and thank everyone that worked so hard on it, because that's a big deal as a county. And you'll notice at the top of the thing too that Broadnax also got some too, which is kind of Mecklenburg and Brunswick together. So it's really a big deal.
Okay. Everyone's heard the motion. All in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? The motion carries.
So altogether, with all of those grants, we received about $1.85 million from external sources in the last, 30, 45 days. So we're very excited about all of those projects and pursuing them to their completion. Okay, so now turning to the great part that we've all been waiting for here. The General Assembly update.
Wow.
So at this point in the calendar, we are about halfway through the General Assembly cycle. I would say, however, we were not anywhere close to being halfway through the substantive items that will come from the General Assembly. It's always a matter of back end, and there's a lot more work that is done in the final weeks than is done in all the other weeks. So there's still a lot to go. So don't think we're near the end of it yet. One other item I really wanted to point out before I delve into specific bills is that the legislative process has a lot of components to it. Just because a bill is introduced does not mean it has any traction, does not mean it has any support, even if it's a bill that is put in by the most powerful member of the majority, does not mean it's going to go anywhere. In addition, most bills that are introduced are modified along the way. So just because you hear a particular item on day one of session and it advances does not mean it looks anything like it did when it was introduced. There are amendments, there are substitutes, there are a number of other actions that happen along the way. So many bills get tempered down during the long process of going through all of the committees. The last item that I did want to mention is the bills that I'm going to talk about today are bills that impact county, whether from a zoning or powers perspective or our major fiscal impacts. I know there are many more bills out there that would impact individual people in our community, but that is we just don't have all the time in the world, and you probably want me to stop already. So I'm just going to focus on those. But I did want to acknowledge, I know there are other real concerns that people care about here in Mecklenburg County. So this session, and like a lot of the last few, has really shown the General Assembly with a greater appetite for talking about some policy issues that have been typically reserved for the localities. That includes some substantive land use items, whether it be housing, whether it be solar, or whether it be data centers, or other items. I want to start out with housing. So this year, there are several bills that are designed to spur residential construction all across Virginia. I think everybody has acknowledged that Virginia has a housing shortage. There's not enough units that are being built. There haven't been enough units built in the last 15 years. And so there's a lot of remedies out there for how to induce more residential construction. A couple bills in particular are notable. One bill is a bill that was intended to create housing growth targets. In its current form, what it would do is it would require all localities in Virginia to develop a housing growth plan. I'm hoping that some of the work we're doing right now with respect to our housing offsite infrastructure program will constitute the housing plan, but we just won't know until it's enacted and DHCD sets out some guidelines on that. However, the point of the plan is to try to figure out what strategies will be most effective in the local community in order to generate housing, which I think is a laudable goal. it could be fairly expensive. I mean, each plan, as we've seen from our comprehensive plan update, from our zoning ordinance update, bringing on consultants to do these plans has some cost to it. And if you can imagine hundreds of these plans all having to be done in a 1-year time frame, there's not a lot of workload out there. So the rates of these might, increase. But the whole point is to try to figure out those strategies. Again, good idea. However, where it comes into play is this. The goal that they have set for localities is to have 7.5% residential construction growth over a 5-year period. That is a large number. That would be about 1,500 homes here in Mecklenburg over a 5-year period. I don't think there's any necessarily problem with developing 1,500 homes, but I don't think anybody is out there to build 1,500 homes. And so that's a worry. Now, I've spoken to the patrons directly on this matter, and they have assured us that and the way they intended the bill is that if you have several strategies set out and they put some of them into the legislative text, then you're waived out of having to comply with that 7.5% growth target. And so some of those strategies, and it's really, really fortuitous for us that we're doing a zoning revision project right now because we can take a look at and incorporate some of those strategies. Some of the things are going to be things we're going to do already as part of that project. Some of them are things that are inoperable for our area. For example, we could build, we could say you can build a 100-foot story building here in Mecklenburg County, but nobody's ever going to build a 100-foot story building. So increasing the height permitted in this county is probably not going to actually yield any residential construction. So that's something to be mindful of is we're going to have to do some strategies, which again, I think we're already planning on doing them, to meet this particular legislation and to waive ourselves out of that imposition that we create 7.5% housing in 5 years, which I have no idea how it would be possible to do. One other aspect in that bill that is particularly notable is that it changes how appeals are rendered. Under that, if you have the plan and you are waived out, then it gives the BZA a ministerial duty to say that any denial that the board has made is sound and okay. If you do not do the housing plan, if you do not get waived out, then the BZA will have the requirement to potentially overturn a decision that you all have rendered on a particular housing project if the developer appeals that project. That is a tremendous change in the way things are currently structured. Right now, any appeal goes to the circuit court. Now it would rest it with the BZA, which I will remind you all that is a body that you make a recommendation of, but that the court actually appoints. And they've never had the requirement to weigh in before on like policy related decisions like that. So that would be a pretty big change in Virginia law. So we'll see how that advances, but it certainly has traction thus far. And that's one I'm watching closely as I mentioned, I have previously spoken to the patrons directly on that particular bill. Another related housing bill is related to manufactured homes. And when I say manufactured homes, I think there's an important distinction to make there. Manufactured homes as they intend it, as it's being talked about now, are homes similar to, say, Clayton homes, similar to Virginia homes. Those are nice, fairly expensive, well-built, well-organized facilities that are essentially replacing your starter home. And under that particular bill, the manufactured house would be permitted in any agriculture zone district and in any residential district if it is a manufactured home that is essentially equivalent to a stick-built home. So if it does not have wheels, if it is being affixed to the property, then there would be a requirement to treat those homes as you would treat any other single-family house that would be put in those particular areas. So that's important to remember, particularly as we have some conversations in the future probably about project proposals, valuation of property, and some of those type of comments, is that there will be a consideration for us to have equal treatment to what I think many people historically have perhaps not treated equally, and in the manufactured home relative to a stick-built home, and that they can be compatible in the same neighborhood and on adjoining parcels. So that's a particular bill that has gone forward. Another housing-related bill has to do with the placement of those manufactured homes if they are non-conforming or in essentially what is today viewed as a manufactured home park. There were certainly some references to those kind of developments earlier in a little bit different context. But right now, if that bill were to be enacted in its current form, then in a previously established manufactured park, a manufactured home, as long as it met the U.S. Housing and Urban Development Standards, would be permitted by right to be replaced on a parcel that already had one or on an open lot in an existing manufactured home park. So, that's certainly another point of consideration, as well as you could see some of these be built and they would then have the right to build them even though it was non-conforming, and even though there was nothing on that parcel previously, which is a pretty substantive change from traditional practice. So those are some of the bills that are still live and advancing with respect to zoning and housing. On the matter of solar. So we've previously discussed this topic many times, and the bill that has advanced this particular year is a much modified version of prior bills. It will retain authority for project decision-making here at the local level and does not provide a vehicle to appeal to any new state board. So that is a pretty good outcome for us. That being said, it does pose some restrictions on the practices that we currently have in place. First and foremost, the requirement would be such that the Board of Supervisors would have to weigh in on every single project that is proposed. Our ordinance that was previously adopted to not allow it as a permitted use would no longer be permissible. And so we would have to take the applications for utility scale solar and we would have to run those through the traditional planning and zoning process up through decision by this body. So that's one change in that bill as it is in its current form. The other big change is it sets out a number of conditions by which a project could be approved or not approved, a bunch of standards. And frankly, most of them are things that we have said we want to see before. They put into consideration site location with respect to the surrounding area, the scenic rivers, the historical sites. There's a prohibition on stripping the soil from the site, and that has to be put back into its place. If it's removed, it has to be put on the site, and any removed soils on the site have to be put back immediately after construction. So there's a lot of good in this bill with respect to the complaints that have come up through the prior constructions that have happened here in Mecklenburg County. However, the bill does impose setback requirements and has a small range of decision-making, but not a large range of decision making. So most setbacks would be measured from the roadbed. They would be, you have a range. Typically, the range is 50 to 150 feet. It varies depending on wetlands and some other factors. But the bottom line is we wouldn't have the discretion any longer to set setbacks that were lesser or greater than the range that was set forth through this particular legislation. So it would, in a way, constrain the independent decision-making authority that this board has through the zone and ordinance process. So that is something to keep in mind. So it does change some of what you can do, but it does keep the decision-making here at the local level, which I think is certainly an improvement over some legislative vehicles that we have seen, particularly in the 2025 session. So that's where the solar topic is right now, and it has advanced, and it is very likely to pass in that form. Another related bill with solar is a piece of storage be placed on it. The operating theory behind that is that makes the solar project a more effective project, and it would provide additional power resources onto the grid because it balances out that problem that has been discussed many a time about solar producing in the middle of the day when the needs are at night or early in the morning when the sun isn't shining. So it regulates that out a little bit better. The problem with this bill as it is currently constituted is that it can become immediately placed in a by right status, and this board or any board would not have any consideration whether it should be approved or not. That being said, I do want to note that that doesn't mean you are powerless. The bill as it is currently written, although it allows it by right, does make it so that it has to adhere to any standards as of July 1st of 2026. So the good news, as I said earlier, with our zoning process underway, is we will have a set of conditions that govern that particular topic, whereas we don't have that today. So the battery storage can't be completely unfettered. It would still have to adhere to the general rules and standards that a local community sets forth. However, the flip side of it is that a solar company on their own choice could then decide to place it on that particular site. And there would be nothing that this board could do to inhibit that decision. And there's no siting agreement that would be required. There's no special terms that would be required outside of adhering to the general operating conditions of the ordinance. So, you know, that is another one of these things that is reallocating some of the independent decision-making authority that has been traditionally invested in these particular bodies locally. So that's a particular one that we're watching. I will note that bill has bipartisan support in both chambers. So that's a bill that is very likely to make it through to the finish line. A couple other items. Those are the big ones that we generally face and deal with on a regular time frame. On data centers, there's been a lot of bills introduced in the data center space this particular session. There's been over 30 that I've tracked in some form or fashion. Most of those have been continued to 2027 or have been defeated. The General Assembly has coalesced for now on, when it comes to regulation of data centers, on re-advancing the pieces of legislation that were passed by the General Assembly in 2025 and vetoed by Governor Youngkin. And so those make it so that a data center would have to submit a noise profile and a noise assessment on how that would impact the surrounding properties as part of any application. So it's given us as a locality an extra power to require. It also encourages data centers to do assessments around several other factors, including impact on adjoining sites in the way of historic properties, parks, neighborhoods, some of those kind of items, farmland. And so this is not a requirement of an application, but it's something that the locality can ask of the data center community through this legislation. So anything that advances our decision to get more information is definitely something that is welcomed from at least my vantage point. One interesting thing to note about this bill is it pretty much tries to get the power companies to the table. It doesn't allow us to require the power companies to provide the power studies that they would do for these proposals, but it encourages them to provide that information to the localities. So it's getting in a direction that is more positive so that people can see the holistic picture and impact of any particular one data center establishment. And so that's a topic that's been brought up here before. If the power companies are willing to participate and can in the time frame that's set out, which is 1 year, which is the general time frame for an application of any type in Virginia, that will provide us with a lot more information. So in my view, it's a particularly good bill. And so we'll see how that actually impacts applications throughout the Commonwealth. But again, it provides us with additional information, and so that is welcomed. Almost every other bill, as I mentioned, has gone by the wayside to date. So those are all the area items in the kind of the land use area of the world. A couple other items that I did want to mention. One bill in particular that's somewhat interesting, and that will have an impact on what we do here, is a bill that would make it such that we could not amend the agenda on the day of the meeting and take action on that amended item at the same meeting. So you could do certain things, like you could direct staff to get more information, but you couldn't, or you could refer it to another committee, but you could not take a vote on any item unless it was previously put into the meeting materials in advance. You certainly could make an amendment on a particular item, and that would be okay. Like, for instance, if we had one of the planning and zoning items earlier today and you had wanted to add a condition to it that wasn't already on there, that would be permittable because that is an agenda topic already. But we couldn't bring something new at the start of the meeting and also take action on it at that same meeting.
Does that one go through, you think?
I think in its current form, it probably has a good chance. It has been modified from the original concept that was talked about before the FOIA Council last year. There is a carve-out provision in there that allows for an emergency situation to be advanced. So, for instance, if we had a declaration of local emergency, when we had the nutrient fire, and that happened on that weekend after we had already done the agenda, and then we had the board meeting on Monday, and we had to confirm that declaration, this bill would permit an action like that. So it allows for like a real time sensitive item, but your general items would not be allowed to be done that way. And I do think in its current form, it has a good shot. Like I said, the original concept didn't have those carve-outs, and now it does. So they've definitely been working with the stakeholders to try to advance a vehicle that meets all parties' interests, or at least enough of their interests to get into a version that would pass.
Did they have to go by the same rules?
They never have to go by the same
I
rules.
just figured I'd ask that.
Perfect answer.
Yeah. So that's really, it in terms of a lot of things that will be most impactful of our powers. I did want to point out two other items before I finish here. One, I did want to talk about my favorite bill of this particular session, and that is a bill to designate the peanut as the state snack. So I am very enthusiastic about this.
Been my snack for years.
I am a huge proponent of the Virginia peanut. It is just very, very unfortunate that the soil in Mecklenburg County does not allow us to be a great peanut bearing community. But many of our neighbors are, and so I look forward to consuming the peanut. And dang it, I forgot to bring in my peanuts. I was gonna eat one right here as I spoke about that. I forgot that this morning. Oh well. The last item I did want to point out, though, this is something we don't need a decision today, but I do want you all to be aware. This is somewhat late breaking item. On Friday afternoon, the General Assembly decided to advance the caboose bill, which is the amendments to the budget that is currently in effect. This was not expected, but it was done in relation to some of the election matters that are outstanding in the Commonwealth. Traditionally, what happens when the budget is discussed is that the caboose bill and the current biennium budget are all done at the same time, and that time frame for at least the committee reports is later in February. Then all of a sudden there was a House Appropriations Committee and a Senate Finance and Appropriations Committee meeting in the afternoon of Friday. So when that happens, you know, something's happening. And so they decided to release their amendments. Again, it was not planned and expected going into it. And so the amendments that they made to the governor's introduced budget, again, mostly dealt with election matters, but there was one item in there, and this is a rare instance where both chambers had the identical set of amendments. So it was obviously all the issues were worked out, done, and I would not anticipate much change to this. And it's going to be law probably in the next 48 hours. The General Assembly is going to approve it on Tuesday. The governor will sign it immediately thereafter because they need as much time as they can to have all the mechanics of the state going forward for the April 21st referendum. But one item, how it impacts us besides the referendum, is there was a provision put in by Governor Youngkin to provide a bonus in the current year to state employees, to school employees that are funded through the SOQ, and to state-supported local employees, of which we have a considerable number. The governor's proposal provided for a 2% increase in, again, this is in the current year, the budget that we were already working under. What they have done through both the governor's original proposal and the amendments that were advanced on Friday afternoon is to set up several different structures for this bonus. School employees will have a particular bonus, and sorry, Scott, if I'm getting ahead of your discussion with your board, but it would provide a $1,500 bonus, not a 2%, $1,500 bonus, again, for all SOQ-funded positions, and that would be done either in 26 or 27. The General Assembly made an amendment to allow it to possibly be in 27. The state employee bonus was also converted from a 2% to a dollar amount. The local state-supported employee bonus was left at 2%. And it was also left as in FY26. There was no all other procedure to be able to do in FY27. So why they set all these different things, I don't particularly know. What that means is this. That means this board will have a choice. It will have a choice of several different options. Option number one is we provide the bonus to all of our workforce at the same rate, which would be 2%. The total general fund and social services cost of that, and again, I ran these numbers really quickly, but you're looking in the neighborhood of $400,000 for that. And I have no idea what it would cost the schools or if the school's budget is able to absorb that within their current resources. But that would be about what it would be for our whole workforce. The second option you could do is to only give it to those employees who are recognized as state-supported local employees, which already amounts to about a third of our workforce, absent social services. And social services, I think almost all of them are in that category, so that would be even a higher percent. So that's an option. That option could also be either on their total salary, which is much easier to calculate, or on their Virginia recognized salary, which is much lower. But that's an option. And then there are certainly pitfalls with that option, I will definitely say. And then the third option, as always, is we just decline to provide it and decline to accept the reimbursement revenue, which is a choice that you all can make. But one of the three choices will have to be made. Any bonus that is provided by the Commonwealth requires a local ordinance to be adopted to provide it. So we can certainly do that through, or I shouldn't say through, but in conjunction with our regular budget process, or we could do it as standalone. But if that's the option you choose, we will have to take some form of action. But that is something that we will have to now work through over the, well, we'll have to work through it because that will be in law this week.
What's their logic behind that?
Their logic is we have extra resources in the current year and we want to reward everybody for all the hard work that they have done. So here is something extra. Typically is the process by which they think through these lenses. The reason they gravitate towards bonuses and a lot of times is because it is not recurring. And so they know they have the surplus this year and they don't know what the revenue situation will be the next year. So this is one way of, you know, again, rewarding people while you have the money without having a long-term commitment to it. Why they pick the numbers they pick,
I reckon all those new
couldn't tell you.
taxes they're talking about is going to help fund this.
Well, I think that is not, most of those are not going to happen. So,
A lot will.
But from the current year, it's all the resources that are in place as of right now. And like I would say, the 2% number came from the budget that was introduced originally by Governor Youngkin in December. So it's certainly an item that is not partisan in nature by any means. It's something that both sides have supported, both in the past and in this current budget. The big thing to us is that it's one of those things, middle of the year, you just drop it on us and here you go, make a decision. But that is something that you know, again, we don't have to make it.
On those decisions?
It's going to have to be in the next few months because we would have to provide it by June the 1st.
It'd have to be in this budget year.
Yes, it is, which is something that I've advocated against the long term, and I believe that we should have the flexibility when they do this at the last minute to be able to provide it through the next year budget. But so far, nobody has taken up that suggestion, even though I've advanced it several times, even to the point of getting it into the VACO legislative packet this year. But unfortunately, for one reason or another, the legislative staff in Richmond hasn't decided to do that flexibility for us, but they did do it for the school system this year. So, hey, maybe we're making progress on that front. Anyway, that is something we're going to have to make a decision on. Like I said, we have in advance of June because we're going to have to provide it by June 1st if we do that particular option. So,
okay. Can we go back to solar?
Yes.
Just a minute.
Yes.
Since all these things are going on with solar, as Alex explained in very good detail. And I got Russell to write a resolution to uphold where we have been with solar. And I will read that right now. First, whereas House Bill 711 and Senate Bill 347 are proposed legislation which place certain restrictions on local government's ability to impose maximum setback distances regarding solar facilities and determines for local governments where said setback should be measured from, notwithstanding the fact that a locality is best positioned to evaluate individual parcels of property. Second, whereas Senate Bill 343 would permit the installation of battery storage infrastructure on any land for which a utility-scale solar site had previously been approved by the locality, without the locality's ability to determine if such site is suitable for further energy facilities. Third, whereas the Virginia Association of Counties, VACO, has expressed its opposition to the adoption of House Bill 711, Senate Bill 347, and Senate Bill 443. It is therefore hereby resolved that the Mecklenburg County Board of Supervisors hereby expresses its opposition to enactment of Senate Bill 343, House Bill 711, and Senate Bill 347 in the form in which such bills are currently engrossed. And I would hope that we could adopt that this morning. I will put that in the form of a motion and open it up for discussion at this time.
I think it's a great idea.
Okay. Hearing no discussion, all in favor of the motion say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? And the motion carries. Thank you, Alex.
And so that's it for my General Assembly update. Then the only other item we have here is the staff reports. I did want to point out that we have the budget calendar. It's printed out and in front of everyone, I do believe. So just please mark those dates on your calendar. We want to make sure that everyone who wants to be here, needs to be here, is here on those particular dates.
These pretty much locked in.
Yeah.
Okay.
And then,
did you help set these dates? Huh? I'm just asking. I mean,
yes.
Okay. I just asked. I haven't even looked at my phone. I don't know.
The Budget and Finance Committee chairman was consulted and helped determine the states that were included therein on this particular calendar.
That's what I was leading up. He should be. He should be.
You can't run, but you can't hide.
Also, I wanted to just announce and remind that the budget submission deadline for all departments and community groups is this Friday. It's been posted online since about the 1st of January. I've received several submissions to date, but in case anybody contacts you all, the deadline is Friday. And so if people want things, they need to submit them. And this is the time to submit a request for consideration for funding in this year's budget. So
this Friday?
Yes. So like I said, we've had it posted up there for community groups for almost 6 weeks now. And like I said, I've received some. But I always know that there are people who come get a hold of you all later in the process with ideas, and so the time to submit those is up front, not at the last second. So that's all I have, Mr. Chair. I know that was a considerable amount, but we've got a lot going on right now this time of year.
Important information. What can we say? All right. I'll entertain a motion to approve the consent calendar.
So moved, Mr. Chairman.
All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? The motion carries. All right, so going to board member matters next. Ms. Blackwell?
I would like to commend Mr. Birch and the other entities working during the storm. Everything was handled well. The notifications were excellent. And it just shows that we've made good investments with the money, with our funds. And starting at the top, also with our administrator. So I hope things will continue to go well, which I'm sure they will.
That's it. Ms. Lundy?
Oh, yes. First, I'd like to thank VDOT for the quick response they had on the roads. cleaning up the snow plus treating. I think they treated the ice 3 times in the country roads. I was just shocked. Also, when you sent out the bill for the real estate assessment change for 2026, it would be nice if you would put that maybe within the tax bill itself, put a copy that you gave us today in there with the bill for June, if it's possible.
June, well,
If it's at all
it takes
possible.
effect, well, it takes effect July 1, so
Okay.
it would affect in December.
Yes, okay, if at all possible. I know, Town was saying something about putting it in the paper. In the
Putting it online.
Online.
Yep.
But when they can see it in black and white, it's sometimes much better for older people. Okay. Thanks also, Josh, for keeping us posted on the storm. And I'm just looking at it every time it's on there, trying to see when another piece of snow will fall. Another day in the house. Now this, I think Alex mentioned it, but housing. He was talking about the Virginia home next to the stick-built houses. I'm wondering what effect would that have on the value of the stick-built house? I know in the past, if lower house price was next to a higher, the tax would be different. Did they say anything about that? Or it remains the same?
Well, Lisa, I think you're probably more versed on that, but
We haven't seen where it affects any value for us. There are differences in valuations for stick-built versus manufactured
Even though
homes.
they right next to each other.
We have not noticed any difference in, it jeopardizing any kind of values. Of course, it'll go through all the zoning process, and everybody's, has to be notified and before, I'm assuming that's how it still works. Yeah, that everyone has to be notified before a manufactured home can be placed on the property. So, but we have, thus far, we have not noticed any
Not on the
effects
same
of it.
property, I mean, just next
The
door.
adjoining neighbor, yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah, we haven't noticed any effects so far.
so it would possibly may not affect the value of the stick-built house.
Right.
Okay.
We haven't noticed anything
Okay.
so far.
Okay, that's all, okay, okay. Thanks, okay. Thank you.
Mr. Town?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Pretty much what everybody else said. Just thank VDOT, our employees, Justin, Fire and EMS, everybody that worked through the storm, with everything that was going on. I do want to say that we have a very proud moment right now that we now have a helicopter in Mecklenburg County at the hospital. That's huge, huge for this area. It's going to really improve the patient outcomes in this area. Along what Alex was talking about with the General Assembly stuff, the Virginia Association of Planning District Commissions, which Southside is a part of here, across the state, they're asking the Budget Committee for an increase in their funding because they haven't had an increase in many, 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 many years. So I would like to ask this board to support a resolution encouraging the budget committees to increase their funding because, like I said, the Southside Planning District is Halifax, Mecklenburg, and Brunswick together. But they really do a lot across the board with grants and everything else that really helps all of our localities. So I'd like to entertain a motion that we do a resolution in support of that.
Okay, so we're going to instruct staff to
Yes,
write
sir.
this resolution. Okay. Y'all have heard the motion. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? The motion carries.
That's all I got.
That's all I got. Thank you for bringing that up. Mr. Wilkerson?
I don't have a whole lot. Basically, I come on there, what everyone said. Good job, Justin and the whole staff. I think it's been going on anyway, but I think it's more, real time now. We're seeing these meetings, and I think I know it is for me, a comforting thing to see, to know that we're in good hands, and he's done a great job as director, getting going, getting everybody together. So we just want to say thank you for that. And I guess the only thing was I'm glad to see the Parkview project is moving along. We knew when we did this deal it was going to be a slow go, but I don't know if I knew it was gonna be this stuff. I've had some, constituents and as well as myself going by wondering, something's got to get going with this, but I'm glad to see we got the ball rolling. I still think it's gonna be a lengthy deal, but I do think we're going the right way. So that's all I had, Mr. Chairman.
Okay. Mr. Spencer?
Yes, sir. I too wanted to thank, I had my notes I had made to thank everybody, all the staff that provide services to us across the board. Please know that what you do does not go unnoticed. Sometimes it's the little things that we do notice, but we may not say it. So thank you. I have received many contacts and lots of calls this month, more than usual. And some of it has to do with the current administration. So, and I'm not trying to dispute anything Alex said, but this is just some things that I have either, for example, I'm going to make mention of a majority leader who was interviewed and on air, on video, he responded to questions. And so I'm saying this because this is going to affect Mecklenburg County citizens. And I'll preface what I'm going to cover by saying that I hope that as we look at the budget and what have you, that we're able to do just like we did last year. I'm hoping that we'll be able to either cut taxes for our citizens and or at a minimum try to keep them where they're at. I hope that we don't have to cause an increase. But coming out of the current administration, the taxes are going to be going up. Some of the things that have been noted is delivery services. So if your Amazon delivery comes, it's going to be higher taxes on that. If you have a food delivery or something related to other kinds of deliveries, it's going to be a higher tax on it. Guns and ammunition, going to be a higher tax on those. Your gym fee, your membership fee at the gym, even though you're trying to be healthier, more taxes on that. Your landscaping, going to be higher taxed. Your digital property will be higher taxed. Your vehicle repairs, and we all find ourselves in a mechanic shop from time to time, going to be a higher tax on that. Recreational activities, higher tax. Other services, and this kind of blew my mind, your dog sitting will have higher tax. Your dog walking will have higher tax. Your dog grooming will have higher tax. I don't have a dog, but I know many citizens that do. That's going to have an impact on them. Also, it's been noted that the current General Assembly will give themselves a raise. I think that's important. Now, this is where I don't want to dispute what Alex has said, but this person, ranking member of the current administration, was interviewed on air, and he was asked, what's the intent of these taxes? I think you asked that question earlier. You said, well, what's going to happen with these taxes? Maybe who's going to benefit? And the gentleman specifically said the purposes or where these taxes are going to go and be utilized for is for the benefit of Northern Virginia, rail transit improvements, and also housing in Northern Virginia. So just so noted. Again, not trying to dispute anything that you had reported. Like I said, I already proposed to you that we try to at least keep our taxes where they're at, or we'll try to decrease them if at all possible. And the last thing I have, Mr. Chairman, is we members received a request for a resolution on condemning the new gerrymandering maps coming to the General Assembly. I'd like to put in the form of a motion that we create that resolution.
Okay.
That's all I have.
That we form a motion. What now?
I'd like to form a motion that we have a resolution condemning
The new.
Opposing that.
Yes, sir, opposing.
Opposing those districts. Okay, y'all have heard the motion, any discussion on the motion? Hearing no discussion, I will call for a vote. All in favor, go. Oh.
I did look at the map, and it's general consensus that we would be actually tied into the Richmond area, correct?
Under the proposed maps, if the referendum were successful, and then the maps that have been proposed are adopted, then we would be reallocated from the 5th Congressional District and the 4th Congressional District. The 4th Congressional District does begin in the city of Richmond, extends south. Let me say this. The current 4th District already does that and goes to Brunswick County. So the 4th District line today is bordered at Brunswick and Mecklenburg. Right. The new district would extend west, pick up Mecklenburg, pick up Halifax, pick up City of Danville and Pittsylvania County. The new district would also be reconfigured slightly in the east to include the city of Williamsburg, but would give up some of its current territory in Richmond and Chesterfield. So to answer your question directly, yes, we would now be associated with a Richmond-based district under this map rather than be associated with a Charlottesville-Lynchburg-based district as it is currently situated.
Okay. It'll be very difficult to get any funds back to Southside if this goes through. Yeah. Very difficult.
Okay. All in favor of the motion, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Thank you, Ms. Spence.
Yes, sir.
Ms. Gravitt?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. One thing I was going to talk about, I feel like we don't talk about it enough. We need to kind of focus on it with the cold weather we've been having is, with the governor and everything re-enrolling us in Reggie. Can you explain to this board a little bit about Reggie and what it does and how it supposedly is supposed to benefit our constituents in the county?
So Reggie is a regional greenhouse gas initiative. The intent of Reggie is to create a carbon trading program. So if you have to have emissions, if you have to emit as part of a development, whether it's industrial development, then you have to offset that by purchasing credits on what is somewhat open market. And so the whole premise there is if you have to do something that is viewed through the lens of environmental degradation as negative, then you offset that through paying for it. And so the Reggie program takes the payments for the credits and provides it back to the state of origin. And so in Virginia, the program as it existed before the last administration took the proceeds and divided it essentially into two buckets. One bucket provided resources for resiliency measures, so that they were, let's say, preemptive resiliency measures. So if we had, let's say, we still had a situation where the Roanoke River would flood all the time, we could make an application for funding in order to do improvement programs that would protect our citizens from flooding. This is a program that is widely used throughout Virginia as a local-based source to help mitigate the impacts of coastal hazards, flooding, interior flooding, all measures of resiliency efforts in the way of the waterways. That was one bucket. The other bucket provides energy, weatherization, and other programs to low-income individuals to try to help offset their energy bills through improvements, through things like having better windows, having smart meters, a whole bunch of measures, measures that are in the home to help out and reduce essentially your energy usage. And so those were the two programs as they existed. The cost, if you will, to the average person of complying with RGGI was, according to Dominion Energy, needed to be recovered through a essentially a rate adjustment. And so there was a small amount, I can't remember the exact number, it was something like $3 or $4 or something like that, that was on bill credits, that were on bill, that you would get, and it was a charge that you would pay, and that helped offset the energy companies' need to participate in the purchase of credits. And so that's essentially what the RGGI program was. Governor Youngkin withdrew us from RGGI, and the bills, the charge on the energy bills ended. But the money that was still in the pot existed, and the General Assembly did tweak to some degree how that money could go. There was a lot of money that was placed towards helping out the flood victims in Southwest Virginia, for instance. But if we rejoin RGGI, then the funding, the credit, the requirement to purchase the credits would begin anew. The pot of money would start building back up. The resiliency grant program would recommence. The weatherization and other upgrades for low-income citizens would recommence, and potentially it would be required that Dominion have to, I'm not sure if they would have to reapply to the SEC to reimpose that cost if they deem it to be still necessary to do, or if they already have the authorization and they've just chosen not to apply it. I'm not sure about that particular status of the puzzle, but that's what the potential would be. The ratepayer may have to pay that again as they did before, whatever, 2022, 3, something like that. And those are that's what it funds.
So it's going to drive up electrical costs for our constituents.
There is a potential that could happen, although I certainly couldn't.
The rates for our constituents.
There is the potential that it could lower individual people's energy usage. So if you are a low-income person and you are successful in obtaining a grant for certain improvements that would reduce your energy consumption and therefore reduce your bill. So there are certainly some people who could be benefited by this.
Very small percentage.
Yes, of the total population, yes.
A lot of percentages are going up, small little percentage, maybe staying flat, going down. Maybe.
That is potentially what could happen, yes.
Right. So my question is, and from what I've gathered is it pretty much the power companies who are generating power, it pretty much slaps a lot of regulations on them, and it caps their emissions, right? And then they have this program of auctioning, buying, and selling credits. But to everyday constituents and Mecklenburg County citizens, it is a negative impact. And you know, while we're out and about, we've already kind of seen the trend, but it's not going to be uncommon for people to come up to us and tell us their electrical bill is $500 plus. And I know that's got to do with some of the cold weather we've had. I understand that. But at the end of the day, I feel like RGGI is a very, very expensive program that makes people in Richmond feel good. But it doesn't have any positive impact on our constituents at all. For instance, you could start documenting, in these cold weathers, as far as people when they start to pay these astronomical electrical bills. That some of them might say, I've got a fireplace. I'm gonna just burn a little wood and try to offset that electrical bill. So, you know, could we see an uptick in house fires because of it? Maybe, I don't know. Which then that's going to put a strain on our local emergency services. So, which we don't want any of that. And like I said, you know, I feel like that us rejoining that is not good. You know, it's common knowledge that if it wasn't for states like Pennsylvania, North Carolina, I don't know what we do. There's the general consensus is that we're going to make it on the green energy side of things, and it's just not going to happen. The companies, from what I've been told, is begged the General Assembly not to, you know, that we can't. It's not going to work. We can't do this, and they just sidestep them and do it anyway. And I feel like that's very dangerous because at the end of the day, if we have power disruptions, it's not going to be on a 75-degree day when the birds are chirping and spring is in the air and everybody's holding their arms, hands in hand. It's going to be when it's 5 degrees outside or 105. That's when we're going to see a disruption. So I don't think it. Like I said, I don't think it's good. I want to get open, you know, people to talk about it. I want the board's opinion. What do y'all think? I mean, do you feel like, what do y'all have to say about it?
I think you're right.
Absolutely. I think that kind of cost gets handed down to us from our government, and then when the light bills goes up, the first thing everybody starts hollering is, well, Microsoft is causing our light bill to go up, but it's our local, our Virginia government is sending a lot of this cost in. I think, you know, back here 3 or 4 months, Mr. Gravett, you shared a light bill with me or something that you had gotten from Dominion when you were touring the back. I want to say, just throwing a figure, $4,000 or $5,000, and I think the actual electricity used was like $600. Everything else was additional cost. So, do you have any more room to put another $4, $5, $6 charge on the bill?
You know, I'm sure they do. But and the sad thing about it is another thing is just a quick little search will see that during COVID, you know, Dominion overcharged their constituents their customers over $1 billion. $1 billion. They overcharged their customers, and the State Corporation Commission let them keep it. So, you know, some of this is, you know, a lot of it's politics, and some of it is, you know, of course, big corporations and stuff like that. But it's just a huge negative pass along to our constituents. And like I said, I think it's terrible. And once again, I will, if we could, I'd like to make a motion that we oppose this board pass a resolution to oppose Reggie.
Absolutely.
I
You
have
can.
a question. Does Department of Social Services, where they have these weatherization programs, is that a part of it?
Most of those have been funded by federal government sources, and not this program. But I'm not exactly sure who the entity that any of these grant applications went to, which I can verify. But Social Services program is independent.
Tri-County. Application goes to Tri-County.
Okay. All right. Well, we've got a motion. Alex, these 2 motions, you're going to word them and email them to us when we get done?
I mean, I can certainly do that. Yeah.
Okay. Any more discussion on Mr. Gravick's topic? All in favor of the motion, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? The motion carries. Mr. Gravick, you have anything else?
One more thing I'd like to talk about is SB 650. Are you aware of that one, Alex?
Hang on one second.
It's still in committee, but pretty much, you know, like I said, it's really preliminary. Like I said, we talked about it. We knew and we know that some of these things could get amended, might not make it out of committee and whatnot, but it does. It's pretty much a utility bill and for water and sewer utilities. It offers discounted rates for certain customers, but then it requires the utilities to recover those costs from everybody else. So that means higher bills for the middle class, rural taxpayers. And like I said, it's just not a lot of transparency yet, but we need to keep an eye on that because that's going to have a direct impact to our constituents in our towns.
Can I ask one thing on that one? If you got it in front of you, I don't have it in front of me.
I have it up.
Because I think it says may, not shall, that you can elect to do it, but you don't have to do it.
Right. It's still in committee, so I know it's going to be a lot of amendments.
That's correct. Mr. Tanner cited that correctly. Right now, the language
You
says.
just want to keep your eyes on it, right?
Yeah.
A public utility engaged in the business of furnishing water or sewage facilities may propose and the commission may approve rates and tariff provisions that provide discounted service to customers with and then so it sets the criteria thereafter.
Yeah.
Take from one end and give to the other. But as long as it still says may.
Yeah.
That's the big
Thanks
word.
for bringing
That's the
that
big
up.
word.
That's it.
That's it.
That's it.
Mr. Brinkley and Mr. Hargrove are left, and myself, and we don't have much time.
Well, somebody told me the other day, it's probably not no need of passing all these resolutions and all, because it probably ain't gonna do no good anyhow, but I'm glad we are fighting.
Makes us feel good.
I'm glad we're fighting for it, and I think it's important that we do that. Just to throw another one in there,
Everybody gonna get one.
Yeah, that's good. Of course, you see the gun legislators that are being moving forward in the General Assembly. I call it pretty much ridiculous and all, but I know back in December of 2019, we passed a Second Amendment sanctuary county. So do we need to revive that or anything, or are we still good?
That is still on the books, and that is still applies. We are in that status
So
currently.
that stays there.
Until it is repealed by this board, or we have some kind of global repeal of everything we've ever enacted before and start anew, which did happen once before, then it's still on the books and effective.
Okay. And the other thing kind of brought my attention the other day, the lottery money we receive for our schools, is that sent to us saying this is lottery money, how much we got from the lottery, or is it in the whole package and we really don't know what it is?
There are certain lottery-based accounts that are part of the standards of quality that are funded from the lottery rather than funded from the Virginia General Fund. There are also a number of provisions in the state budget that are funded from the lottery, that are not funded from the general fund, that never touch us but are in relation to education, including, for instance, the literary fund. Has support from lottery-based sources. But yes, we do have certain accounts that are provided to us through lottery funding, and they're noted as such.
It's a pretty significant amount?
No.
Well,
I mean, it's better than nothing. But in comparison to the funds we get from the Virginia General Fund, the general fund sources are far outweigh the lottery-based sources.
And to give you an example, I'm strong to always been against the lottery and all. I think it's a tax on the poorest people in the county to do that. And the reason I say you'll go to the country store, and I've seen this many, many times. You go to the country store, a person pulls over to the gas tank and gets $5 or $6 worth of gas, comes in and spends $25 on a lottery tickets. That's sad. And of course, if you ask every one of them, how are you doing on that lottery? All of them are winning or breaking even. Nobody's losing, the claim. But
I will have you know, I retired as a career winner. I played one time, spent $1 on the ticket, won $4, and declared myself a Hall of Famer and retired.
That's the way to do it. Yeah, but it's sad that happens and all. But it's kind of like drugs and alcohol, whatever. It kind of gets to be a disease a little bit, and your phones and stuff. You can bet on every ball game. You can, like this weekend, you can bet on who got the first touchdown, and it passes. It's a disease, and it's costing a lot of people that don't need to be spending their money there.
And it's gotten worse.
Yeah, got worse. So due to time, and I know Mr. Hargrove's got a lot, and I'm gonna back out.
Mr. Hargrove.
You used up all my time.
Y'all done used all of mine.
Amen.
Now, I'm just grateful of the revision of the Chapter 24 of the county ordinances. Thank all those who participated in it. And my favorite person sitting in the back, Mr. Justin. His name is not Justin. I thank him for the emergency services outlook for the future and for Bracy. Thank you so very much. And as you say, is that if we come to you with a plan, that's all you need. And so you have a plan and forward in this session. So I'm looking forward to next year to be operable. And I do thank you for that. And other than that, one of the things, Mr. Brinkley, we as a people, no, it's not funny. We have a choice. When we talk about tax increase, a lot of this stuff, we have a choice not to buy it. But we do, because it's habit. We have a choice not to do whatever that you were stating, but we do, because it's habit and we're just people. But no, a lot of things that we have in control, but we think that other people are to control, but it's not. Psychologically, they psych you out to say they're in control, but they're not. You are. So if you're used to eating, I have old cliche. If you're used to eating a honey bun and it went up, taxes went up on 6%, don't buy the honey bun.
That's right.
And see, when they see that the public demands has control, then things change.
And we need change.
We need change.
I thought you were going to say something funny, but you didn't.
No, sir.
Meanwhile, your taxes going up.
Yeah.
Make a good sermon.
All right, I don't have much. I would like to bring up one thing, though. In that public hearing this morning, that lady said that they don't get notification. I don't really believe that. I believe these two gentlemen sitting back here do their job. They know how to do their job. And I don't know why the public comes in here and says that. We've got guidelines, I assume, by code that we have to. You want to walk through that, Alex? Because it's a little bit irritating to me when they do that.
So,
Have every time.
So what I think, and if you all want to weigh in short, please add to this conversation. But what I would say is the Code of Virginia requires us to notify immediately adjacent parcels of land. So that means anything that actually physically touches the subject parcel or is across the street directly from it. So if it touches, so the way the road works is, imagine the road does not exist, then that parcel would touch. And so that's who gets it. What I think happens is there's an expectation that if it's close to me, it's in my neighborhood, then I am an adjoining property owner and I should be notified. But that is not what the law says. So I think in the instance, one of the instances earlier, it appeared from the map that was passed around that there was actually a parcel that was in between this, and that specific parcel never touched the parcel that was subject to the application, which it's very close. It may feel like you're next door, but per the words in the Code of Virginia, that is not a adjoining property. And so that's where I think the rub is that we are compelled to notify anybody who just physically touches or would touch if not for the road. But if you're one tier beyond that or more tiers beyond that, there is no legal requirement to make that notification. Is there anything you all want to add to that, or the mechanism by which we notify?
We knew you were an athlete.
So basically what we do is we go off the GIS mapping, and if this parcel touches the parcel that the application is, then we go to the north, south, east, and west. And then, like Alex said, if it crosses the road and it looks like it would touch if the VDOT right-of-way or the private driveway wasn't there, then we do those. But we're not going to do a community outreach or send out a 2-mile radius of letters. We're not going to do that.
Whatever you're required to do, I'm sure you're doing.
Yeah,
and it's,
absolutely.
That's not to say the applicant.
It's very offending for me for somebody to come in here and stand up in public and say that when I know they're doing their job.
And I will say,
take that lightly.
My secretary, Chariot, she does a great job of doing that. And I mean, we get complaints all the time that, they got the letter, but we didn't get the letter. Well, they touched the parcel. You don't, even though you live 2 houses down. I mean, everybody gets the newspaper. Everybody has Facebook. So
they don't have no problem finding out when the meeting is.
No, sir, they sure don't.
And there's certainly nothing that prohibits the applicant themselves from doing advanced work that would provide them with more support in that community for a proposal. So there's nothing that says the applicant couldn't send notices to everybody in the area. There's nothing that says the applicant couldn't knock on a door. There's no restriction in that regard. So that's also something to keep in mind too, is that if the applicant wants to have favorable treatment, the applicant should also, take, right.
Well, anyway, I wanted to point it out.
And I also feel as if, by the code, we give enough advertisement time for people to see it in the newspaper, see it on social media. So it's not a new thing to them when they come here saying that we didn't see this, we haven't heard about it.
Yeah, we've advertised by that point 2 times in the newspaper in front of the Planning Commission, 2 times in advance of this meeting, and we've also sent the letters in both of those cases.
Everybody's done what they're supposed to do, but the problem starts is when the person gets the letter and they pick up the phone and they call their neighbor. Well, I didn't get one. Maybe in the same neighborhood, but it didn't join the land like you talked, the parcel.
And that's what we're dealing with now, with the new zoning ordinance coming up. This neighbor is getting the flyer, but this one hadn't gotten it. What is this about? Why am I not getting this? When ultimately everybody is getting the same letter. So
yeah,
it's just going to be an ongoing thing.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you.
Yep.
We have an ag meeting, February the 24th, I believe it is, 3:13, 6 o'clock. 6 o'clock. Taylor's got the speaker lined up. I've been chairman of that ag meeting for a long time. Mr. Blaylock was chairman, but he made me do the work when I was vice chairman. So I'm going to turn that over to, after this meeting, Mr. Wilkerson is vice chairman. I'm going to let him be chairman, and Mr. Gravitt is going to be vice chairman. So I'm going to step down.
Amen. Great idea.
So I think y'all can handle it very well. I'll conduct that meeting, but after that, it's going to be y'all's.
What time is that meeting?
6 o'clock.
On the 24th.
On the 24th. So I do want to, Jason stepped in. If you have something to say, Jason, be more than glad for you. Any luck on the voter petition things we've always talked about?
No, I've got something else I'm working on, but nothing as far as
Okay,
that.
good enough. All right.
What's the meeting going to be? Where?
3:13 in Safety.
3:13. I mean 3:13. Okay.
Yeah,
And then we're invited back for the sheriff's on Wednesday.
on Wednesday.
Yeah.
All right.
And then soil water on
Water's
Thursday.
having one on
Except we got
Thursday.
regional landfill.
26.
That I'm not going to be here that night.
I ain't going.
Alex, anything else?
Not for this particular meeting. I believe there's a personnel committee meeting afterwards.
It is. Jenny got lunch for him?
Good job.
All of us?
Grab lunch on your way out.
I think she's telling you something.
Well, I appreciate it.
That's the way she meant it.
Mr. Slayton, you have anything?
No, I'm good.
You good? All right, we're going to stand adjourned.
He said a good lawyer knows